sorry.
Yeah.
It's this week at 7.
Okay. I'll be right here.
Deal with money, we will deal with the rest.
Okay, yes.
Very important. That's all right, small enough. We'll get started in a minute. So just to be clear, so tonight we have a quorum with the 3 of us. That means that things that are approved are only done unanimously. So, right, so which is fine, and if something gets a vote the other way, then it would not pass.
Right.
So I want to say that to everybody. Card's not here either. I have not yet seen today. Didn't know what we were going to do. So we can get started at 7 o'clock. Our secretary is dealing with some of his normal day duties. He's doing stuff out there. We'll see him in about 15 minutes. We can just get started, I think, if that's okay with everybody.
Maybe we should hold off with the review of the minutes until Nick gets back.
Sure, then we can be more efficient with our edits at that time. It's a good idea. So with the agenda, we were notified, I think Gary was notified that on the agenda that Parish Manson would not be coming in tonight, correct?
He talked to that, yes.
Okay, so we can scratch that from the agenda. Moving on to new business, the first item is Eric and Joelle subdivision amendment. So what is that?
You have the plan on that.
This here right here. Okay. Are Eric and Joelle here?
Yes, they are.
Hi, Eric and Joelle.
How you doing?
We're okay. How about you?
All they are doing is splitting this piece of property. If you recall, this was the kind of a recent subdivision, right?
Yeah.
West Road. Rockwood Drive.
Okay. And this was a lot that was purchased.
Right. Eric and Joelle building their home right there, and then dividing the property this way, and this is going to be their daughter and son-in-law's, I believe. Which is
and we're keeping the 4 acres and
they're gonna get 12.83. Yep. So that's all they're doing. What they're going to do is they've got a driveway that comes in here, and both properties gonna access this, which would mean they'll have to name this road as a private road. But this is all they're doing is splitting. And the only reason they're here is because that's an amendment to.
Right, and if I recall correctly, we approved this with a minimum 4 acre lot.
Yep.
And I assume that would pertain to the other lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I can't remember back here, there's designated open space.
yeah.
It is.
Was that ever, at the time when the subdivider came in, if I recall correctly, there was discussion of they were going to convey that either as a conservation easement or some other way to the RCA. Did that happen?
It was all conveyed to Rockwood.
Oh, it
By the
was.
owners. Yep.
Okay.
He doesn't own anything, right?
No, they're all.
We got rid of all
Yep.
of it.
He sold the 3 lots up by the road,
Yep.
and the rest of it belongs to the Rockwood Drive Association.
Yep.
So on the plan it says it's indicated as common preserve area.
Yeah. Not that material here.
Yep.
Gary, were there other conditions on the approval of this subdivision that?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't recall any.
This has been surveyed and
This is the recent survey that shows that piece carved out,
And let's see, at this time, there must have been a line of sight study, right?
Oh, yeah.
There was,
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, that home is already constructed.
Right.
neighbors have been notified. I'm not a butter, but I'm the next house down
Yeah.
towards.
I see you walking your dog.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
brown dog, yeah. She looks friendly, unfortunately she's not.
Really?
Well, she's unpredictable, she's not a rescue dog.
Just like
She's got-
your owner,
got baggage. So you must have the gray, was it a Jeep Cherokee?
Yeah, that's mine.
Okay.
I got the red Dodge.
Okay, yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys moving over to the side.
Yeah.
Not pushing me into the ditch.
So I mean, I don't know, you know if you have to go through the whole subdivision application for an amendment, I wasn't really, I didn't think you did, but
Yeah.
they did fill out the application, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think if for a matter of record keeping, I appreciate the fact that the entire application was filled out. Perhaps by going through the ordinance, we could find out if there's any reason to go through the entire thing.
Right.
But it's good for the town to receive that. Who prepared this plan?
Broken Stone Survey.
Broken
Oh, yeah, Broken Stone.
Bob Knowlton. Yeah. You should have a mine on there too.
Roger, are you looking in the subdivision ordinance, you at least one step ahead of us already?
Yeah.
Probably.
And we went through the amendment from, I don't remember the gentleman's name, who was part of the original developers. What was that, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. We went through a more comprehensive review, but what he was proposing was far more comprehensive too.
Right, that's one of the lots that he.
Right, yeah, right,
I think there
exactly.
Was there 4 lots, I think?
3,
There was three on the west
yeah,
front.
along the west road.
I'm just looking at the ordinance to see what is applicable in terms of us going through the whole thing.
Yeah.
The best scenario would be, we need to do nothing other than receive your paperwork and then just look at the amendment to the current law. You know, I'm looking at the definition of subdivision,
Mm-hmm.
and of course it says, is the division of tract or parcel into 3 or more lots. And this does not meet that.
No, it doesn't, but because this is already part of a legal subdivision, and in fact, it's a standard condition of approval in addition to the specific approval that we did previous, a specific condition we placed on it before, that any re-subdivision requires planning board approval. What I'm looking for is that, you know, is there a section in here about amendments? And
I don't think there is.
yeah, I can't find anything so far.
Nothing, none of mine are, and that's what that would be.
Yeah. You know, obviously, once you get to the point of constructing on that newly created lot, they would come to you for a plumbing permit for the septic system.
Yeah.
So nothing's different there.
Right.
Same for the building permit.
Right.
I don't believe those lots were approved, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, with any vegetative buffers or anything of that nature.
I don't recall.
You mean, would there be a requirement for this other lot to also have the same?
Yeah, I don't recall that there was.
Right, I do. I do not recall.
The phosphorus control was dealt with when the initial approval was granted.
Right.
Same with stormwater.
Because of the size of the, wow, how was that done?
Well, I mean, I wasn't on the planning board because I lived down the road. I was an interested party, so I participated. But the engineers for the developers submitted a phosphorus and stormwater control plan.
They did. And it was like,
And
they were like, if I recall correctly, there was like 60% of the total lot area was open space.
Yeah,
Versus
yeah,
the 15 that the ordinance requires.
and they did a very good job with the managing the stormwater down that big expensive access road.
Yep.
One of the better built roads in town. Well, at least in terms of stormwater anyway. It's pretty mucky.
We call that $1 million mile.
Oh, we do. Yeah, yeah, can see why. Yeah.
I don't see anything about amendments.
I don't see anything about amendments
It
either.
doesn't say anything specifically, I'm sure, but
I mean, it could be buried in there somewhere, but
I don't think it does.
So I'm thinking, as you suggested, Gary, that you gentlemen tell me if we're going to
Is all together?
total looks like 16.93 for the two.
So they could eventually end up by having 3 or more lots, right?
Was that a deed?
List of acres.
Full record minimum.
Yeah.
Right, so,
They could.
I'm thinking we'd have to treat it as a regular subdivision.
Well, they're not, even though they're not subdivided?
Well, what happens if 3 years down the road they decide to sell another 4 acres, and 3 years down the road they sell?
have to come back to us
Then they
again.
have to come back.
Yeah, I just don't want to get into the mess like we have done on Route 8 with.
They have to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd have to come back.
Or do you want to avoid all of that and just treat it as a subdivision?
my thinking is we can't in advance.
Right.
So, but we can, any applicant in this situation would be required to come in to the planning board for approval because it would trigger this.
When did this come in to be subdivided the first time?
The very, very first time?
Yeah.
Oh,
You mean,
Way back.
let's say like 2000,
A dozen years ago?
yeah, 6 maybe?
No, more
No
than.
more than that.
2000.
Oh, 2006, yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been there a long time.
and then they came back, what, 2 years ago?
2 years probably.
Mr. Linscott did because his partner died.
Right.
So that would almost come back on them even giving that piece of land, which is not, it's been over 5 years.
Yeah, as long as we maintain the same conditions of approval that are on the original subdivision on this approval, it would seem to me we've protected the town against that.
Right, right, and could we do that simply by saying, you know, when we get to it, if we just reference whatever those are in the other approval?
Yeah.
This one, that the same are applied?
Will they need to be on the Mylar though? Just like on the original?
Or is that what these are? No, these are surveying
Do
notes.
you need to see the original, or the one from 2 years back?
I think that might be.
That would be helpful, I think.
If I can find it.
Now, if you go to the paper, or maybe Gary, hang on.
Yeah.
Gary, before you,
That's
there might be some notes here or something from, this was.
condition of approval.
Yeah, and we said, 2014, so this is the one.
So it's 14.
Yeah, so this is 3.5 years ago, right? So the board, is limited to that depicted in this final plan. No lot may be re-subdivided without prior board approval. And that's what they're asking.
So that's it.
And this is lot 1 that's being re-subdivided.
Right. And it looks like there's some wetland right here, and I think on this plan there was mention of something. Is there a mention of wetland?
This is pretty wet back in here.
Yeah, I think
Places.
after this corner, based on this other one here, when you look at lot 1, this whole area is, but this is, am I correct that this is the lot 1, 16.93 acres, there's a good section of wetland that's.
That's forested wetland.
Right.
It's,
Oh, okay.
it's really squishy.
Okay.
I mean, I used to deer hunt back there way back
That's
when.
1,694 feet. Yeah, so it's down the corner.
It's down there quite a ways. And there'll be might prevent further re-subdivision.
It probably would. Yeah. Right?
It's
It's
all
gotta be.
in my wallet, but they won't be able to tree something.
It's not your plan, right?
No.
And we're building what, 200 feet off the road? 16.
Yeah, the first one.
Okay. So, in terms of what the notes are, in terms of conditions of approval in this,
It's interesting though that I mean, I very distinctly remember us approving this with a condition that no lot being smaller than 4 acres didn't make it onto the one.
printed,
It's recorded in the registry.
It is,
Part of
so
the
it's
deed
on the
restrictions.
deed itself as a
Yeah.
covenant.
oh,
I think you require that. Yeah, you require that to be on the deed, if I recall.
okay.
Oh, that's right, it was handled in the covenants, that's what,
Covenant.
that's right, that's the distinction, yep.
And the notes here, just for the record, if you haven't read them, note 7 says lots 1A and 1B are subject to declaration of restrictions and covenants. Rockwood are subject to declaration of restrictions and covenants. Rockwood at Belgrade subdivision is recorded in KCRD in book 12643 page 60. So there is that part that is still applicable. So with nothing in our ordinance about amendments, how does the board wish that we proceed in terms of processing this particular application?
I think we can proceed with approval, with, you know, some conditions. The only thing I'm not sure of is whether they need to be put on the Mylar before it's, before we can actually sign the final and it's put in the registry of deeds.
How does that work here?
Just like with the original. Because just having it as, you know, part of our recording of the minutes is not going to be good enough for a subdivision, whereas it might be for some other permits.
You know, do we have to do that? Because this is gonna stay with the original.
The drawing, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also has to be submitted to
But
the registry of deeds.
It's gotta stay with it because it's an amendment to the first, so all the conditions are still gonna have to stay.
Yeah, the original conditions still stay.
Yeah, they'll stay.
We have new ones, though, I think.
So
Yeah,
basically,
well,
it's
no,
just
I
the-
actually, I was just gonna reiterate them. I think that's necessary, but maybe I'm wrong.
So Roger, go ahead and.
Cause all we're doing is adding this to the original one. We're not changing the original at all.
Right.
So
it's
it's
an
just the
amendment, it's an
idea of
amendment.
accepting the amendment.
So whatever conditions were
Right.
placed, or deed restrictions were placed on the original, should go with that, because it's an amendment to it?
To the original. As opposed to.
I don't know
Yeah.
for sure if that's.
We're
how
not
it
amending
works.
conditions, or we're just amending that one parcel.
Right, we're not carving out a new
You're
thing.
not creating a new subdivision.
No, we're not.
So
That makes sense. I was mostly concerned about what you had raised earlier, or your concern about the re-subdivision of the lot yet again, and your concern, you know, about it not duplicating the situation that we have over on Route 8.
And if that happens, I'll just have to do the same, they'll have to come back and rewrite the
Yeah.
whole thing again.
I mean, as a matter of record, you know, it would be approved with the standard conditions, which, you know, specify that they have to
go
come
with the
back.
original conditions.
And then the original conditions of
I'd
the,
be good with that.
I'm on page 24. We're on page 24. It says, no changes, erasures, modifications, or revisions shall be made in any final plan after approval has been given by the planning board and endorsed in writing of the plan, unless the revised final plan is first submitted to the planning board approves any modifications, except in accordance with that section. The board shall make findings that the revised plan meets the standards of Title 30 MRSA 4956, subsection 3, and these regulations in the event that the plan is reported without the plan is required. So anyway, my point with that is this what we're seeing before us like what they're talking to about a revision?
It's not a revision, it's an
We're calling it an
amendment.
amendment. We don't even.
What is, I think it's the same thing.
It feels like it to me. So, I don't know. I'm thinking we can proceed.
I think a motion to accept that with the original amendments and conditions to follow would be okay.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
So I make a motion to approve the amendment to the Rocky Shore subdivision condition with the same conditions and deed covenants as the original planning board approval of the subdivision.
That sounds good. Second.
Of the Rocky Shore subdivision.
Rockwood Shores.
Rockwood Shore. Rockwood Shore? Rocky Shore?
Rockwood.
Rockwood. Rock.
So, okay, that was made and seconded.
Seconded.
Any more discussion on this? Do you have any questions for us?
Is that Sound reasonable to you?
Is that reasonable? I'm sorry we had to talk through that.
Okay.
Thank you for being patient with us. We're trying to do it the right way.
The first time even.
So therefore, all those in favor? Approved. Great. Good shape. Now, I suspect that we'll be signing this thing.
Yeah, 'cause you gotta take that line off the road, too.
Well, it's good that I know your names now.
Good neighbor you are.
We're terrible neighbors.
You remember my vehicle level, so.
Yeah,
it's fine.
well, yeah, right, and you remember
My
our
name-
dog, so.
Her name,
My
her
name is
name's
on the
the
license
plate.
plate, so.
Yeah. Oh, really? Did it say Joelle?
Yeah.
I think I've seen that.
Oh, right,
I've seen
of
that.
course, right, yeah, no, I've seen that.
Yeah. Okay, so.
I don't need this.
What would you mean? It's not February 29th, is it?
No.
No.
There isn't? I have to update my watch. Yeah. I think that will cover it. You don't have any other paper ones to sign.
Oh, how many copies of that do we
How many
need?
bylaws are there?
We have one Mylar here, and it looks like I'm seeing this right, I have two paper. Two here.
And we need 2 Mylars, one to be submitted to the registry of deeds and one for us.
It says in the ordinance, but.
You need one
It does.
more?
I think George just read it.
Only one.
That's all he gave me, so it's a very good one.
See what the ordinance says, I think it says two.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
We'll get to the page so just so you can hear it.
You run into that in the last one that we
did.
Right.
The
One over
applicant
on the Dunn Road.
had a different opinion. Alright, what does it say? Did you find it?
Yeah, one copy to be signed, retained by the board as permanent record. One copy to be signed shall be forwarded to the
What page you on?
23.
That's the second copy, no?
We keep one. Yeah. One goes to the registry.
You can't just keep the paper one, then?
So what can we do?
How did we handle that with that one out? Didn't we have the same problem with the one that Pat Powell brought in?
We did.
He didn't
We
bring
did.
in enough Mylars.
I think he came back with one,
He did.
when we signed it at a later date.
You put a condition on it, then you got it back at a later time.
Do the same. Yeah. Yeah.
You bring it in, then you can give them the permit.
Right.
You
And then, they're not looking to build anything right now anyway, so there's no permit required involved, but.
Right.
If we could get the second one at our next meeting, we could sign it right lickety split. The three of us, just the three of us.
Which is March 15th.
March 15th?
I mean, you wouldn't necessarily, well, you probably wouldn't be here to pick it up or whatever, but.
Right.
And we could give them one and we could retain one.
Yep. Can that work for you folks?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So if that can work for us, so let's be clear about this. Do you want to state it clearly so that we have it as a matter of the record then, in some form or fashion?
Does it require an amendment to the, another motion?
Like another motion.
Okay, I'll give it a whack. Make a motion to retain the original Mylar and paper copies until receipt of a second Mylar for the board's signature.
I like it. Second. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Great. So that's what we need. Well, that means we're keeping these. When we bring it back, we'll sign it listing split on the 15th. Okay. Next business day, you'll have to do your business. Good deal. Thank you, everybody.
Nice meeting you.
Appreciate it. And good luck.
I'll wave harder next time when I.
I'll slow down more.
Yeah, thanks. Can I put this over? Yep. Okay. Oh, it's this one. App 771. Gary, what is that? Is this with this?
Say what?
Do you know if this piece of paper is with this?
Open it up.
Treasure map.
That's this. Okay. Awesome. We'll be right with you.
Yeah, George, he'll be a good neighbor, he's a state trooper.
What's that?
He'll be a good neighbor, he's a state trooper.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that. That's fine with me.
So
After having been broken in twice.
the young guy is? Because I thought I'd seen him around this chick.
Roddy,
Yeah.
state trooper. And his wife is in school to be a state trooper as well.
Oh, really?
Eric's daughter.
Oh, wow. The neighborhood just got a lot safer.
Yeah.
She's a game warden.
Oh,
She decided she wanted to be a state trooper instead, so she's at the cabin.
Oh, really?
interesting. That's great. I thought I'd seen that guy, the young guy before. Alrighty.
Is Nicholas gonna join us, or what is up with that?
He is.
Okay.
He was trying to deal with some closing out of the register. Is that right? Okay. If I got it straight, we may have it.
I was counting big bundles of cash when I came in.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as you didn't run off with it.
That's what I told them.
Okay. Next on the list, it shows Shane and Rosemarie Chaput to do a renovation. Hi, Rosemarie. How are you?
Okay.
Good. Let's deal with your application, shall we?
Okay.
Does everybody have that copy?
Will you refresh my memory?
So this one, 148 Woodland Camp Road on Great Pond, they want to jack up the camp, place a slab and walls to winterize. 13.
3-foot wall.
What's that?
It's a 3-foot wall.
Oh,
That's just a slab.
the slab. I
Yeah,
understand.
no,
I'm sorry.
I noticed that today when I was reading it on my.
Yeah,
husband-
no, until you get to, you go to the next page, it becomes perfectly clear, Peter.
Okay, so a 3 foot high or less, so probably under the consultation with Gary, who's gonna not be, couldn't go very high. Right?
Yeah, he's.
So the wall
Compliant,
is
yeah.
going on the slab, not a frost wall, then a slab?
I don't know that.
I believe it's on top of the slab.
They got four slab
I believe so.
and a wall on top, okay. So there won't be any digging in other words.
I don't-
Very, very minimal.
Gary, a certified contractor won't be needed because of the limited amount of excavation.
Good question.
I think the trigger is like, what, a cubic yard or something?
Oh, I remember this, yeah, they got the permit back in 93, they never did it. 91, they never did it.
91?
Yeah, see the copy of the original?
Oh, yeah.
John County.
No kidding.
Richard Bourne was the planning board chair.
I remember that name.
Gee, that was only 2 years after I left my first time around.
Yeah, that's right.
And
That's
can,
right. He never did follow through and did it.
and where is the Woodlands Camp Road?
Down by Camp Renoya,
Oh, yeah, okay. Down that
right before it.
Yeah.
Oh, pretty spot. So is this in the shoreline zone?
Yes.
And will they have a certified contractor working?
I don't know.
What was the question?
Who's doing the?
Well, here's the thing, we wanna get some bids for it,
Yeah.
and we've called people, and they said we need to find out if it was possible to do it first before they come out.
Okay.
So, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We kinda need to know.
That's the site plan.
Well, we could always deal with that as a condition, couldn't we, Gary?
We have in the past, yeah.
What the issue is that the ordinance, the state law requires, if you're doing any amount of excavation work, that the contractor be certified by DEP as having completed soil erosion control training, basically, and is certified, and that's why we're asking who your contractor is.
Yeah, it's actually,
Mr. Musgrove
So,
place first.
is one of the ones that my
Yeah.
husband has been talking to, and,
but we can deal with that as a condition of the approval,
Yeah.
okay,
and then you
yeah.
bring it in later.
Yeah, get someone on the phone and say,
Yeah.
hey.
But that's a question you're gonna wanna ask people when they're submitting bids.
Okay.
Right. So I'm on the site plan
Yeah.
here, looking at this, and looking at your structure.
Yes.
The one-story camp, and it looks like, if I understand it right, there's a kind of bump out towards the water. That front corner is 28 feet.
It's a porch. Yeah.
Okay, porch is 28 feet from the, looks like the water.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so most of this is pretty close to the water. So would this need a permit by rule then, from DEP? Because this is gonna be, stuff happening, right?
So, I mean, this is before us because it's a non-conforming structure, right?
Well, that's a good point, yeah. It's a non-conforming structure. What's the lot here?
Non-conforming.
Really big.
Non-conforming structure,
150 feet.
So that, the reason why it's here is a non-conforming structure or a non-conforming lot. Yep. Thank you. And no proposed changes to the structure other than elevating it a little, putting the type of frost wall insulation that you need.
Yeah.
So that you can enjoy the place.
Well, we really wanna make it our full-time home, because we're on the backside in the apartment now, and we would like for it to be our home.
Okay.
And we, you know,
Oh, are you at the garage?
yeah, there's an apartment above the
Says
garage.
apartment with 2 big garage,
Yeah.
that's where they live.
So you're making it work.
We're making it work.
Living the good life, are you?
Yeah.
I love it. That's great. That is great. Okay.
What's that? 1 floor?
It's 1 story.
What's the height of the height of the peak right now? Where, anybody know?
It's not, I mean, it's one of those flat roofs on that porch, I mean, it's just 1 story, I don't know, however.
Wouldn't be over
Below that dimension.
20,
No,
Right. And
even
then,
with the extra 3 feet.
no,
should
it's
be.
1 story.
okay. I felt confident about it, but I just wanted to talk it out. It's one of those things.
Yeah, now you gotta ask. Gary, are you familiar with this site?
Yep.
One of the issues we need to deal with is whether or not it can be moved back
Right.
to the greatest practical extent because of, and so, you know, the question becomes,
I don't think that's an option.
what's that?
I don't think that was an option, to be able to move the camp back.
Well, I was gonna ask Gary what's behind the camp.
I can't remember. I remember the driveway's right here. You said it's not an option, what is the reason?
I think that the septic line.
There is a sewer line. that's
Yeah,
going on.
and all of that, so, and we really would like, if possible, to follow all the rules, and if we can get it done and keeping it where it is, we would like to do that. If that's a possibility.
There are a lot of trees here.
There are some trees, yes.
What about boulder, big boulders, like car-sized boulders?
There's big rocks down there.
I don't remember, George. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
The only question then becomes, do we need to do a site visit?
Right.
You may want to.
So you want to schedule one?
Well, I mean, typically with these kinds of applications, that's what it's come down to, is on-site assessment of, is there something that's makes it impractical to move it? I mean, a septic line in itself is not probably enough reason. That can easily be dealt with, but if they're, car-sized boulders or
I mean,
overhead power
there's
line.
outside pictures, but there's snow, I mean, you can't see the boulders of the property, if you wanted to.
George, what was the date on that when they made it, that we had to move it to the greatest practical extent?
1989, probably.
Well, I don't know. I know what page it's on, but I can't tell you when that was enacted.
What's the revision on the front?
It goes way
So
back.
this is the back, the road side, looking at it.
Because they got a permit.
Oh, well, I mean,
That
there's
ordinance come out when?
1991,
There's a lot.
is November 5, 1991,
Because they got an original permit to keep it where it is in 91.
right?
So they must have followed the ordinance then, and they couldn't move it back then.
I don't know.
No, that's,
I don't know if that board back then did site visits, I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably about it.
Yeah.
no, see, oh, wait a minute. This was issued in May of 1991. The ordinance was adopted in November of that same year. So the ordinance, this wasn't in
when this permit was
right.
given.
So we can't jump to that conclusion.
Right.
So Rosemarie was showing a couple of pictures. And this is the, from the back of the house, looking towards the lake. And then if I go this way, there's a tree.
Right.
Then one more that's on the outside. So there are a couple of small trees on this side, and a larger one on the right.
Oh, they're huge.
And then, oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Down there, yeah.
And then this is in front, so towards
Right.
the lake. And I think that was it for the pictures.
Yeah, I might have a couple more on there that I can go through and see if I can find
If
it.
you have one without the snow, that would be great, to answer the question. In the back.
Where's power?
The power looks like,
It looks
there.
like
This is
Power's
the
coming
front,
in.
See that E?
by the
Yeah.
front where
nice.
the porch, the porch is and stuff.
looking
so
towards the lake.
yeah. And this is the view from the apartment, looking at the back lot with all the trees. I don't really have, We moved there at the end of October and the storm hit like the next day. And there's been no time for pictures and then it snowed. So I was
Yeah.
like,
Right,
I don't really have a lot.
that's fine.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Really well.
Sewer line,
Mhm.
cause this, each deal, I thought there was some, then a power line.
Yeah,
Power
that's
line's
easy.
E.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know how a lot of times we encounter a power line that
Yeah.
goes from camp to camp to camp, that
Right,
prevents it from being moved back.
right.
They got one
Okay.
pole right there.
Right.
Yeah, back there, yep. And, let's see, with this proposal, lifting, slab and walls, 3-foot walls, the sewer line, you'd probably be tapping the same into that sewer line, correct? And still going back to the same
Yeah, they share.
septic field?
Yeah.
That they, so in other words, what I'm asking is, there's not some other septic system that's being proposed, right? It's
No.
utilizing what you have, okay?
Yeah.
Just so you know, we're not making this stuff up. I'll just read to you the applicable part of the ordinance. This is for foundations and basements. Whenever a new, enlarged, or replacement foundation or basement is constructed under a non-conforming structure, the structure and new foundation or basement must be placed such that the setback requirement is met to the greatest practical extent. The maximum would be 100 feet, but that's probably not likely, but anything in between is what we need to assess whether that can be done.
Yeah.
Because there's no forever guarantee that, a non-conforming structure can stay where it is.
What pages, I was
On bottom of page 12 and top of page 13.
So that's available if you want to download that ordinance.
What was the pages?
Bottom of page 12 and top of 13. It's a little paragraph F.
So that Shoreland zoning ordinance is available on our website,
Okay.
just so you know what.
Okay. My husband will look for it.
Okay. All right, so sounds like site visit then, right? So we should probably try to make an arrangement for that. First of all, Rosemarie, is it acceptable that we come to your property?
Sure.
Okay. So what's the date or time? It doesn't have to be all of us at the same time. So in fact, sometimes it's better not to be, quite frankly.
Yeah. Although, was it Booth Bay got in trouble for not doing it that way?
Yeah. Yeah, true.
You're the only one working, the rest of us are.
Yeah, right. Us men of leisure.
So okay, so I'm the one that holds stuff up. So do my schedule. So can a weekend day work? Given
I could do it anytime on Saturday. I just can't do it on Sunday unless it was fairly early.
okay, so
I'm open.
Saturday can work.
Yep.
So this Saturday is the 3rd, correct?
Yeah.
Can this Saturday? Is that okay?
Yeah. Can it just be me because Shane's gone? His schedule's
Sure.
crazy.
Yeah, no, we just need to be able to walk around and see what we
Okay.
can see.
Yes, I'll be there. But
Okay, thanks. We're trying to work out a time and we'll coordinate with you right now. So is morning better than afternoon?
Either's fine with me.
Yeah.
You tell me, you're gonna pick me up on the way by.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, morning's good then. Is 10 o'clock too early?
That's fine.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right, 10 o'clock. So I'll pick you up right around 9:30.
So, and to get there,
Point Road,
yep,
all the way to the end, Camp Renoya,
yep,
take a left, right
Left.
before it. That's Woodland Camp Road.
right,
You're gonna go down there and the road veers to the right,
mm-hmm,
am I right?
Yes,
You're almost right there at
we're
the,
right at the, it's the first place.
Yeah.
On the right
Yeah.
is the garage and the camp's right across the street.
okay,
All right,
very good.
all right, so 3,
It's brown, everything's brown.
at 10 a.m.
It's in,
So we will see you.
Yeah.
At your place on the 3rd at 10 a.m.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah.
We would take a few minutes.
And knowing that we're gonna schedule a site visit really means that there's really nothing more to do tonight. So, yeah, so I think we should have
right,
a motion.
and we'll also, since it's gonna be 3 of us, we need to give notice.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You would be so kind? Thank you.
Make a motion, table this permit until after the site visit.
I'll second.
Great. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
so, what would you do? Do you wanna take stuff on 15?
Good question.
Made a big hurry for it?
I don't know.
Are you in a big hurry?
No, if it's possible to do it, we'd like to get moving on it.
If it's not the 15th, it will be the first Thursday in April.
Which is at the end of the week, yeah.
Right, yeah, cause we're starting so early
Right,
this month.
so,
Let's say,
1, 2, we did it.
How much more do we get to do on that?
It's the 5th of April.
Shoreline zoning,
Yeah.
is that okay?
I don't know, I've kinda lost track, frankly.
We're almost done, I think.
Yeah,
I'm just
I mean, we
wondering if
we still have a
yes.
couple of contentious issues to deal with, the wetlands, streams,
So this might
perennial
be pretty cut and
streams.
dry after the site visit.
Does April 5th work for you?
Disproved, and
April 5th's fine, April 5th.
I hear your concern.
They're not gonna get equipment down that road between now and then.
So we'll be okay. April 5th it is, for this next time. We have this one, and we'll go from there.
Right,
You all set?
Thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
Thanks.
See you on Saturday.
Okay,
Yeah, have a good night.
you too.
Okay, next on the agenda is the applicant Patrick Sadulsky, sorry, Sadulsky. Kennebec boat repair on the Oakland Road.
Yep.
How you doing today?
All right.
Thanks for coming in. So is this your, the blue one?
That
So-
rolled up plan is his,
This one?
that's his.
Okay, thanks.
And also, this is his $100 check. For the fee.
So here's a plan submitted by the applicant.
He owns Kennebec Boat Repair currently. He wants to put an addition on the existing building, 2 additions, correct?
One addition,
One addition.
20 by 40, on the existing building,
Yeah.
and then a 60 by 90 storage.
Storage building.
That's
For the
entirely
boat.
separate on the other part of the lot, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
According to this.
Yes. So if I'm understanding this correctly, if I look at the drawing, on the left-hand side, where it goes 10 feet and then 40 is the original, right? Make sure I'm saying it the correct way.
Because
So there's a 10-foot section and then there's
there's
a 40-foot
15 feet to
section.
the line right there by the office.
Okay,
That's
but
original, this is existing right now.
what I'm trying to point out is the original. So here's the 10-foot thing and the 40-foot thing.
And
This is original.
This is the expansion.
Right there.
This right here is what you want to add on.
Right, exactly.
And
This
separately,
on the upper,
this.
the upper.
Yeah,
Right.
right there, yep.
So I totally hear what you're saying about setback. I hear you, so that's good.
Yep.
Good. I just wanna make sure we're talking about the right stuff.
Great, perfect.
And this is gonna be for what, boat storage?
Yep.
And this is where you're gonna do mechanical work?
Yep.
And this is the existing parking
Right.
area.
And this is,
That is not, that right there, the entryway, DOT's approved it, what is it, 30 feet, it's a regular
yeah,
entryway, I gotta put an apron in.
There's a bunch of trees here, then there's a big open field. in the back.
right, yeah.
Right.
I'm
I
assuming
have it-
you're not going here because of that big ravine, right?
Right, well, later, later on, I wanna put maybe 200 by 60 more storage down there, I'm gonna have like a road to drive down, I'll make a big driveway out of it. And behind the building here, a 40 by 80, not this time, but that's what I'm looking at.
In the
Because the
future.
way the whole thing is growing, I wasn't planning on going this far. Mid-Maine, Hamlin's, everybody was sending their boats, but in 07, 08, when it tanked, everything changed. So it's either sell the whole thing and go home or, expand it. So putting boat storage will help, like he's my mechanic, it would help, just make the whole thing go, and you need to do the whole thing, store boats, people want their boats picked up, delivered, winterize, whatever mechanical work needs to be done, holes in the boat, that's what I do, fiberglass repairs. So I just had to, I gotta separate the two, that's my biggest problem right now. I've been doing mechanical and fiberglass painting and things like that.
Yep.
It works, but you have to stop, I gotta stop to do mechanical, or do the painting, one or the other, and it's just the way, I just finished a job 3 months, working on a guy's boat painting it, and it just throw the mechanic out, he can't come in, so.
That's a tough business model, right? Because you wanna have both things going, right?
Right,
Keep him employed, keep that revenue stream going.
exactly,
At the same time, maximize what's going on with you.
right, exactly.
And he's gonna get busier since the fire.
I don't know if I didn't even know what that guy looked like till I seen him on TV, so, I just pay attention to what I'm trying to do, that's,
I hear you.
right. But, I didn't know what
20%
else to
rule cut
point
in
out.
on this?
Not in the shoreline zone.
There's no electrical at the storage at this time. I did talk to a person this past week about, security, so maybe somewhere down the road, cause I'm not really sure, I'm just feeling this thing out. Like I said, I looked at, a 200 by 60, it's possible of having maybe 60, 80 boats there. And basically what I'm basing this on is, can I get the real help and real people to help me do this? With what I got right now, him and myself, if this all goes through with the storage, we can take care of that. But if I don't wanna grow it too big with not the right personnel, I don't wanna just hire anybody, it's just, I need people that know what they're doing. I've been fixing boats, I started out with them in Fort Lauderdale in '80, and I've been doing it, that's all I've ever done is.
So is this the first time, I think it is, that you've gone through with this new form?
No,
Yeah, we've had other ones with this new form?
once before.
On Main Street? Janet?
But that was both.
No, actually, well, we didn't follow all the way through, but it was the marina down on the Woodland Road,
Which was then tabled.
right, or withdrawn.
Withdrawn, yeah.
Okay, great. So this looks like I probably have the original one. You probably have copies. Let's
Yeah.
change the color.
Yeah.
All right, so shall we go through this? So what we need to do is find out if the application is complete. That's the first thing. Okay. So we're looking at what you submitted here. It's like, number one, proposed name of the development or the use for storage and mechanic shop. Property owner Patrick Sadulsky.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that's all right, guys. Move over to Clinton.
Yep.
Looks like you've got information about your telephone information and email. The applicant is the same as the owner, as indicated. Applicant is representing himself. Indicated here. No agent. Person to receive all communications, Patrick, the owner. Does the deed contain any deed restrictions or covenants? You've indicated no.
Nothing that I know
There's nothing on the deed that was submitted, but you're not aware of anything on prior deeds that carried over to yours.
When I purchased the property, it was just woods. I started the whole thing, I had to clear everything and put the building up that's existing right now.
Yeah, what we're trying to get at and guarding against, because unfortunately this has happened to us once before, where we approved something only to find out later on that there was a deed condition preventing commercial development on the lot.
No, when I remember going, the lawyer's office and stuff, signing everything was good. The deed, you have a copy of the deed, right?
Yeah, the immediate copy, the most recent copy of the deed looks fine. I was just curious, because sometimes those things carry over. It's interesting that trustees of the Tufts University owned it at one time, according to your deed.
Wow.
Yeah,
Tufts University.
that's what it says.
Wow. It was Toby Layton that, no, Toby, I can't remember his name, not Toby Layton, he does the signs and stuff.
Oh yeah, there is yeah.
Who used to own it. He was gonna build a house, he said, but it never went through and. I can't think of his name right offhand.
Anyway, the deed's right in amongst the submissions, and I mean, it looks fine. I'm guessing that there probably should be no problem because it doesn't appear to have a really long history, which is weird.
Toby Laban.
That's it, thank you. I was close.
Yes, you were. Okay, great. So, that was item number 7. Are we okay to move on to 8?
Yeah.
Okay. Land and location information indicates here that the location on tax map 13, lot 69. I'm thinking that's all accurate.
A copy of that's been provided to us as well.
Okay. Street address 907 Oakland Road. Total acreage of the parcels, it says 2.8. So this triangular piece is 2.8 acres, correct? existing structures on parcel. Structures you've indicated a 40 by 40 with a 10 by 15 foot office space.
Yep, that's what's there right now, yep.
And then it has some, I think, does it say gel coat and fiberglass repair?
That's what I do, yep, painting.
Okay. Turn to page 2, page 5. No other existing uses of that land exist right now. 12, any portion of the property in shoreland zone is indicated no. Okay, it is not. Is any portion of the property within a special flood hazard area is indicated on the FEMA map? You said no. Is the property part of an approved subdivision? No. Is the property to be developed located within 500 feet of a municipal boundary? The answer is no. The next section, proposed development / land use application overview. Provide a brief description of the development or proposal, including size and number of structures, proposed uses, etc. You've indicated a 20 by 40 foot mechanic shop attached to existing 40 by 40 foot with 10 by 15 foot office. Number 2, a 30 by 90 foot storage area.
No, should be 60 by 90.
Okay.
It says 30, huh?
Yeah,
If I'm reading it correctly.
It says
Right.
30.
yeah,
No,
no,
maybe actually, it's supposed to be 60 by 90. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I've gone back over the whole thing and I had to rewrite on every single one of them, but I must have missed that part.
It's a trick, yeah.
Yeah, 60 by 90. Okay. You go by Pat or Patrick?
That's fine,
Pat,
yep.
Pat, would you mind altering that dimension and then just like if you were to alter a check initial and date? This is the original.
Right.
So if you don't mind. Wait. So it says 30, but I think we need 60.
60 by 90, yeah.
Then the date, please, if you don't mind. It's 3/1/18. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
What's the height of that garage gonna be?
The height of the garage is gonna be 12-foot doors, 14-foot walls. He said the actual peak, he said he didn't know the whatever, code, yeah, the slope, whatever the code is for 14-foot walls, basically. I remember one of the things was the center of the road had to be 50 feet at least. I'm well in 28 feet, I'm well within that, so. And then it was 10 feet was the neighbor's property. And basically on that, it's possible this thing, depending where the land is, the way doing it right. A lot of it's gonna get leveled, you know, a lot of earthwork first. I had one estimate, the guy was gonna bring in a mountain of dirt, basically, and just fill the whole thing. But if you level it out, dig up a few stumps and just kind of move a lot of it around and even it out, then bring in some fill, it's gonna change the price a lot. But depending basically just a little bit where certain things are, but where that shows it is right where it's gonna go.
Okay.
I've got 110 feet basically on the property for turning the boats around, because once I drive up, I have to put a sign up, DOT requires trucks entering. So I gotta have one out in front of the existing driveway right now, put a sign up for that, and I'm not letting the customers go up there. It's just gonna be me. Eventually I wanna get a tractor. It'll make things a lot easier for moving the boats around, stuff like that, but in the meantime, truck, I've got plenty of room, because usually a 20-footer, 20-something foot, then your truck, you've got about 40 feet right there, and I've got about 110 to the peak where on the point of the property goes to turn around and back it in. I figured rolling doors, and I could put it anywhere as I want to put it, you know, it's.
You know,
I have
electricity
regular-
only, no heat?
What's that?
Electricity only, no heat?
Yeah, it's gonna be a pole barn, no heat, skylights basically. But I am thinking, seriously, I think a lot of these customers probably would be very interested in security and stuff, put some cameras and stuff, so, I don't know about right off, but I think that's something I'm gonna look into and probably have put up there. I might have to have a separate electric bill and just have them hooked to the building that way, so there's minor power panel for this, but the guy spoke to me this week about it, and he talked about running a line all the way up there, and I think that would just be a lot of money to bury. Last time I remember putting the building up in the first place, it was 150 feet, and that was as far as they go, and then they wanted the cable buried after that. And the price just jumped enormously, so I think something right there, they got poles they could go off of, if I have to buy a pole, things of that nature. I think it would work out fine, but I don't really have to, maybe just put the fence up there too, you know, a gate, something to that nature. I have some people that watch the place for me, so that helps, but I don't know, wanna make customers, you know, you spend a lot of money on your boat, you just wanna feel a lot better where it is, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that information. Thanks for doing this. Moving along, 17, are any waivers of the application, are being requested? You've indicated no. Application fee to be submitted, and, we've already given him that $100 check. Perfect. Then I assume that you've received a receipt? Not yet, but I'll get one. I'm not worried about it. Okay, I just wanna make sure you get what you need. Number 19, does this development or change of use proposed or require extension or expansion of the following public infrastructure? We have, well, you've indicated no, so. You've indicated an estimate of the proposed development, anticipated start date and completion dates. So start date, you're hoping in the spring of 2018, and then completion date as soon as possible, following the start. Will any portion of the land or parcel of a land parcel or a structure be dedicated to a public use? No. Identify the method of water supply. You have I have an existing well right now. Yeah.
Obviously, the storage building's not gonna require water.
Nope. Okay. Then there is a letter of also this from Maine Geologic Survey. Ms. Amber Whitaker talks about the information requested on bedrock wells in this vicinity. Worth noting, the attached map shows bedrock wells in our database that we have located, either through GPS coordinates provided by the well driller or visit to town offices. There's a total of 1 well in the area indicated in your letter. And it talks about specifics of that well. The well isn't, I don't use it for drinking water, it's just for the bathroom, washing your hands, and wetting the floor down when I paint. That's all I used it for. Okay. Great. I have drank it before, but yeah.
And you're here to tell the tale.
It was never intended for it, and I'm still here to tell about it, so.
Sure, it's fine.
Yeah, I would think so too. On the application, what other water uses will the project include? NA, down. Turning to page 237. What is the projected total water demand that we use? It looks like it may be indicated less than 2,000 gallons per day, and then
It seemed to be crossed off though.
right.
No, I wasn't sure.
So here's the question. It says, what is the projected total water demand of what you're proposing to do? There are two options, less than 2,000 or 2,000 or more per day.
Less than 2,000.
Oh, absolutely. It wouldn't be that much.
Because on here, it looked like it was indicated as less than 2,000, then it looks like it's crossed out, and I don't know what that means.
No, less than 2,000. I mean, it's using the bathroom, or like I said, I just painted a boat,
Okay,
wet the floor down,
thank you. That's about
Right.
it. Yep, okay. Would you mind just making that clear on here, just by putting a check mark next to it?
Yep.
Just so we don't mind.
I appreciate you taking time to help us go through. What is it?
It's
Right
right
here.
here. So if you don't mind just putting that you're indicating 2,000, so a check mark there.
Peter, while he's up there, the following question, which was a yes/no question and was answered not applicable, if he could answer that yes or no. I think the answer is no, but
So yeah, so what George is asking about, the next one says, will the water supply, meet the
yeah, I mean, there's no way that's going to meet the definition of a public drinking water supply.
right, so I think what we're thinking is that the answer would be no.
Okay. I'm not,
As opposed to NA.
okay,
You
I
would need
see.
an answer.
Right, okay, I see.
You mind just going through those two? I'm reading sideways, so it's hard for me to say.
Your turn.
So the next one says, note, is the water supply adequate for proposed uses and projected demand? I think you're thinking yes, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you can say yes. And, then it says, note evidence to support, from the well driller or geologist or the well driller. So, we have the letter from MG, the Geologic Survey, which I think would adequately address that.
Okay.
I think that's good. We can move on? Okay.
And we'll steal your pen.
Alright, thanks. Alright, so moving on to number 24, identify the method of sewage disposal. Indicate there's an existing septic system there,
1,000-gallon tank.
so no need for any changes there, right? It's just-
Nope.
Okay. What federal or state government permits or approvals are required by the proposed development or use? Maine DOT, you've indicated yes.
Yep.
DOT requires, did DOT require a traffic movement permit? You said no. So I think, do we have a copy of the drive?
Yeah, it's right in the
It's in there.
Perfect,
supplemental
thank you.
or attachments.
Moving along. Maine State Fire Marshal, that's not required, we can
No.
say no. Maine DEP, no.
I called them up and I told them what I was doing. They said, you don't need us for anything.
Okay. Maine DHHS drinking water program, you said no, because we're not in a public water supply. US Army Corps of Engineers, you indicated no. Other, you indicated no. Are you applying exclusively for approval to mine an existing sand and gravel pit for the next 5 years? You said no. Going on to 27. How will development or proposed use control emissions of dust, ash, smoke, or particulate matter or other air pollutants? You indicate NA. I'm thinking by that, you mean something about continuing doing what you do.
Right, I was assuming it's like, it sounds like you're running a mining project or a mill or something. I just
Yeah.
heat my building to, you know, in the winter, and other than that, it's just an air compressor and air tools, whatever I do to repair the boats.
Sure. So to maybe clear it up a little bit, if taken in succession, one might think that we're talking about mining operations in total. And while that is important, this other thing is not so much about mining, it's just about any activity that would be putting something out into the air.
Could be a woodworking shop or a
Well,
body shop that do a
yeah,
lot of sanding.
I was just curious what your ventilation system was is like or would be like for,
They have, I don't remember the exact size of it, but, DEP, when I first put the building in, there was, talking with them, there was 3 separate people that I went through, and each one of them had a different way of going about it, but I got ventilation system that fits a spray booth. It's enormous, it's, probably a better section of that whole wall right there.
and they didn't require any air emission license from the,
No, just,
okay,
filtering of it, you know, things,
okay.
Yep.
What's the maintenance on that like?
just keeping it clean. I gotta check my electric motor, belts, things of that nature. It's all it is. It's just, the ventilation, you can close the door. Up inside has louvers on the outside, but I can close it off like in the winter if I'm not using it very much. But most of the jobs that I do, you know, they're usually minor repairs, except when I get into major jobs, then I do run into it. But
What you're proposing in terms of a repair shop, that shouldn't really change much in that regard, should it?
it isn't changing anything with
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's still
'cause it's
the same.
Probably most of it's coming from, you know, the resurfacing of boats and stuff, right?
Right.
The sand in the paint.
Yeah,
One of the
paint,
big
right,
questions
paint,
was,
right.
they asked me how much, you know, what do you get outside, one of the DEP guys, and I said, I don't work outside. He said, well, something gets outside, and I said, well, I'm sure if I open the door, dust is gonna get outside, but that's the extent of it. I don't do jobs outside.
Yep.
I do them all in a controlled environment with heat. In the summertime, because of moisture, when we have a lot of humidity, I turn the furnace on. People think I'm a little nuts, but it makes a big difference in what you're doing.
Because your product, you get it better, and
Well, the moisture, you can trap it underneath paint or gel
Yeah,
coat, and it can
right.
blister and things of
Yeah.
that nature, so. But I'd like to have it more controlled, but I just don't have a money tree out back.
Okay. So are we okay with the answer so far at 27 and combining that with what?
Well, I don't know that it's not applicable is the best response. I think it's that, based on our discussion, well, I don't know, maybe not applicable is fine. Yeah, I guess it's fine,
Because it sounds like.
because it's not required by DEP.
Right. Otherwise, I would say
It's
indicating
more-
something like continued use of existing system.
Yeah.
Control.
I mean, you know, some auto body shops are big enough that there are,
Yeah.
you know, emission requirements that come into play. Same with, you know, like Hinkley boats, Sabre boats, all them have big
Right.
air emission systems.
Right.
Because, but, you know, this, we're not on that scale or anywhere close.
Okay. Are we okay to move then? Yeah, thank you. 28, estimated peak daily vehicle traffic to be generated, you indicated 10.
Oh, Peter, before we move on to that, I think the question right below that, or that's part and parcel of 27, does proposal meet applicable federal and state air quality requirements? It sounds like the answer to that is probably yes, because otherwise DEP would have required some kind of treatment system, or an air emission license, I should say.
Does the proposal meet applicable federal? It does mean it's not no, because if it was no, it would trigger regulatory requirements. So,
I'm signing in.
did I think about that the right way?
Yeah.
So, no. You want to say that it does.
That it does meet it.
It does. Thank you.
Yep.
Good eye. Okay. Moving on 28, we talked, there was an indication of 10 for the number of vehicles that can come out in and out. And I know it's just an estimation, no one's.
Right, I mean, for, like, most of this winter, I mean, I haven't had anybody go in there.
No.
you know,
Okay.
but then I got people all over the country, they come in to visit and things of that nature, but most of it's what it is, you repair a person's boat, they're not waiting around, usually takes a couple of days, they come back, pick it up. Sometimes I'll have, I don't know, maybe 7 boats, 10 boats in the driveway, that's like top number. I try not to keep them in there because, well, the more on your property, it's just more chances of things happening, so. But some people, they're out of state, they come up, open the camp, drop the boat off, you work on the boat, they go back home, and then they pick it up in a few weeks. And I don't mind helping people out, but sometimes I get on them because it starts to turn into an issue.
Yep.
So,
Estimated peak hourly traffic on 4. Sounds good. And then how are these figures estimated? Explain or cite methodology used to indicate, estimate increase of business.
I don't know if that will really increase a lot because mostly what I'm wondering, it's back and forth, is people really want you to pick up their boats. So maybe going out to their camp, picking up the boat off the mooring, you know, things of that nature, bringing it back. It might just be me, myself,
Right.
doing the work, so it's not saying
just
that-
spring and fall.
Right, and then, you know, accordingly. And up as far as the storage, I don't want anybody up there at all. They're gonna drop it off if they do wanna drop it off down the driveway where it's always been dropped off.
Yeah.
I don't want traffic up there. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Okay. Moving on, how many vehicle access points are to be provided from the road? That's 2, the current one. What's the new one?
Right.
For the new proposed building. What is the posted speed limit of the road? Indicated 45 miles per hour.
Right.
Moving on, item 30, name of contractor responsible for earthwork. You indicated NA.
I didn't know what to write there. It's been all over the board with people. I'm doing the best I can. Money is an issue for me. I'm trying to refinance the whole thing. Basically, I'm looking at around $250,000. So to me, that's a lot of money. So,
Absolutely.
but
I'd like to meet the person where it isn't a lot of money.
right. Well, I don't know. Some people it doesn't seem to be, but to me, it's whatever. But I had Jason Stevens give me an estimate. I don't know if he will be doing it. I've got another person that I agree with him. I don't think I need as much fill as Jason says I need to. He'd like to fill the whole thing up is what he'd like to do. I just don't think it needs that.
No,
that way.
is the fill you're talking about is the ravine, right? Or
No.
No.
On top of the hill.
on the top of the hill?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Building's in the hill.
Okay, so there's enough of a slope there that you
I
need to
have
bring
some
fill in.
pictures, but I
Okay.
left my phone in the truck. If you want me to go get it, I can kind of show you what it was.
Well, I mean, I drive by there. In fact, I drove by there yesterday. I was just in the wrong place. That's all. Because I was envisioning filling in the bigger area. Because what the ordinance requires is whoever the excavation contractor that you ultimately decide upon, they need to subcontract with somebody who is certified by the state, the Department of Environmental Protection, that they have the necessary training for soil erosion control.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know who that person is now because you're still going through the sort of the bid process or whatever, and that's okay. It's just that ultimately we'll need that information.
Correct.
The guy that cleared the trees, I kind of wanted to keep some of it, but most of that clearing the lot, you can't. They wanted a minimum of 10 acres. All the people that I talked to clear the land. There was no way of keeping anything on it. It was just gut the whole thing. So, but Paul Sally's the one that did that, and I've been talking with him about doing the earthwork also.
Yeah. I mean, for example, Mr. Stevens, I believe, is certified.
Yep.
But there's a list on the state website, DEP's website, of who's certified.
So, yeah, so at some point.
And there's a number of people here in Belgrade, but there's others in the surrounding towns as well.
So we would need that, so I'll show you my hand that I'm thinking will have a condition. You know what, if and when this gets approved, that we would need that before anything else happens.
So they have to be certified then.
Yes, bottom line.
Most
Yeah.
contractors,
Most are.
binding than most of them, yeah.
All right.
But we can skip over that for now
I think so.
and deal with it later in the process.
Right. So we wanna look at, to see if this is complete, if there's something that we need to.
Right.
So,
Okay.
And allow you to understand what the next steps are. That's very important. So then, the next thing, is a site or structure located on a parcel listed on the National Register of Historic Places. We indicated no. Related to that, how will the impact on the above historical site structure be prevented or mitigated? It's not. Our archaeological, well, we can keep going. We may need to revise this a little bit. Is it okay if I move to 32?
Mm-hmm. Archaeological sites are different than historical ones, in case that's what you're stumbling over.
Right, right.
That's why there's a separate question for that.
Yeah, which is good. So, yeah, so that, we should probably go to the last one. No, we can go to
Yeah, but let's go to 32.
32. Will equipment, machinery, inventory, parts, salvage, waste collection, containers, dumpsters, or other materials associated with the proposed use be stored outdoors? You said yes. If yes, please describe what types of items will be stored outside and the measures will be taken to prevent children from accessing those things. You've indicated locks on the dumpsters.
Yep, I have locks on the dumpsters. I didn't know what to write the screening of it. The dumpster's always been out front, the trees are gone now, but I wasn't sure what to put down on that, tell you the truth. I mean, it's been in the same spot since 2007 when I started the business up there. I didn't know if I had to do this or.
Yeah, well, we can get back to that in a moment. You had mentioned that you currently store a minor number of boats outside on a kind of sporadic basis from your existing business. Will that increase as a result of the addition of the engine repair shop?
No, because we're gonna have it up on top, up on where the storage is.
You would probably, if the driveway starts to get cluttered, I'm just gonna put them up in the storage through the season, basically. But
What about things like engines, engine parts, like will your waste oil be stored indoors or outdoors?
the waste
Grease
oil,
barrels.
I have a waste oil furnace and I just burn it.
So you're not planning anything else stored out of doors?
No.
Okay. So it's really just the dumpster?
Yep.
That's all we need to know.
Yes, I think so. Are we okay to move on to 33? So, does any portion of the parcel include critical natural areas or significant wildlife habitat, including deer wintering areas, as identified and mapped by the name beginning with Habitat Program? Indicated no. And NA relative to the areas on the site plan, it was part of the beginning with Habitat.
Peter, I didn't see a copy of that map in here, but I did check, and I believe we have a copy. I mean, there's nothing at that location. Yeah, there is a copy of the National Wetlands map in here,
I saw
but
that
that's a
too.
different map.
Yeah,
Your only habitat, there's frogs across the street as well.
it's down low, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Moving on. The Natural Areas Program, ACF, talks about critical plant communities to developers. If the parcel includes critical natural areas or significant wildlife habitat, contact the program. You've indicated NA because it doesn't.
No.
Okay. Moving on, 34, if parcel includes wetlands identified on National Wetlands Inventory map, describe how impact to the wetlands will be avoided or mitigated. You have included,
Yeah, there's no wetlands there, obviously.
you've included a map, so thank you for doing that.
Yep.
And you've indicated on the application NA because it does not impact the wetlands area. Number 35 is development or change of use located on a hilltop or lake shore, or the lake shore. You've indicated no. Are we all okay? Moving on. 36, other than from safety signals or emergency warning devices, will maximum noise levels produced by the proposed use exceed 60 decibels between 7 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. or 45 decibels between 9:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. at the property lines or on the shore.
I don't think it registers too much what noise I do make.
No. And will the noise standards be exceeded at any time during the course of a single day for more than 15 minutes? You indicated no. You indicated NA for activities that are likely to generate sound in excess of these standards, and NA for what noise monitoring or suppression or mitigation buffering measures are proposed. You indicated NA. 37, will outdoor development construction activities be conducted between the hours of 9:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. so overnight?
No.
Are residential uses present on abutting land parcels? Abutting land parcels, residential uses.
The only
Make them
residents are on the other opposite side of the road.
That place, just before Christmas, burned.
Oh, really? Immediately across the road?
Yep, just up there, it was, just like a week before Christmas, it burned.
Huh. I didn't even
And
notice.
the one above them on the same side is just being built. Nobody's living there yet.
Oh, yeah, up, going up,
That's power.
right.
Mr. Moore's old house, that was the one that burned?
I didn't know I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a week before Christmas, I came to work and the guy told me, he said, "Where are you going?"
Yeah, it's all boarded up.
Kennebec boat repair.
Really? I guess I missed out.
Huh.
It wasn't nothing drastic, but the whole place is still there. I think it just kinda gutted it, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
It's
'Cause
still
I-
solid.
Yeah, just glancing at it as you drive by, I wouldn't obviously.
Right, if you
but-
look at it now, you'll notice the windows and
Yeah, it was
things
a
are
big
boarded
kitchen
up,
fire
so-
that burnt right through the ceiling, right through the roof.
Huh.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Didn't even know.
Okay, moving on. So are we okay then to say no? Good. Then provide the number and design, location, and illumination of intensity of outdoor lighting fixtures. You said NA, so I'm thinking that means you're not gonna have outdoor lighting.
The only thing I can think of now, speaking of that, I didn't think of this when I filled the application out, is, the storage, the gentleman that told me about it, ADT, he said that the cameras wouldn't show much in the dark, so I thought of maybe putting one of those, they put a street light or something above the door, the only access for the building, something to that nature, but once again, this is all based on let's just see how everything goes, cause I haven't had no problems.
Cause if that's something that, you know, you want, or considering seriously enough, it's better to put it in the application now than have to come back to us later and to amend it. Not that it would be that big a deal, but the ordinance does require though all the lighting be downward facing lighting.
Right,
So it's not going on your neighbor's properties.
right.
So you know, if you want, then something should be filled in here if that's what you want to do. Regular old style street light wouldn't cut it anymore, but it's not downward facing. But
I'm still up in the air about it though, I really,
well, your option, the other option then is, you know, just leave it the way it is, and then if you decide to come back,
Put in motion sensor lights, so.
yeah, you put in motion sensor, but he's questioning whether to
Right.
even go that far. And
if I put the cameras up, I could just do motion sensor like he said on the inside of the buildings. That was one of the things, and it's just a monthly bill. I didn't think of any of these things when I filled
Those
this out.
cameras only need like 2 candle power anyway.
yeah,
I don't,
Minimal.
would these would be outdoors though, right?
yes, it would be one to look to the driveway basically on the storage and one down where
Yeah.
the existing work happens, but, I don't know, I started thinking of this and the person mentioned it, he brought it up, and I'm just thinking of customers. If people start leaning, you know, I'd like to have some security, I'd like to have this, you know, I feel better with my boat, then I'm gonna lean more towards that, but.
The reason we're asking is because our approvals are only for what you apply for, you know,
Okay.
and so if you change your mind or you add things to it, even if it's like lighting or signage or something like that, then you have to come back to us. It may not be a big deal to amend it by any means, but it's
Right.
just a question of if you if you decide now, then you might as well do, you know, have it in the application now. But if that's something you really don't want to decide now, then you can amend the
I see
approval.
what you're saying.
Yep.
I guess if I put it in, then, what about the power though? Then I've got to
Yeah.
show for that too now.
We're not trying to pressure one way or the other. It's just a question of,
No, you're making sense though. It's like, why don't you just do it while we're here? And I agree I think that's a good idea. I think you're right. Why make everybody come back for another one that you can just approve it now? It's a possibility. I'm really considering it after what I've heard, and I think about what I've looked at with these other boats.
well, we could set this aside and then see if we got a complete application and.
Yeah, so what George is saying is that when we get through all this, and thank you very much for your patience as we go through this, there are a couple of things that are question marks. We can say, hey, these are 2 things to consider.
Right.
And if it's at this point, you say, well, you know, we need to fill them in. That would give you time to go back and do some figuring.
Right.
Fill it in, come back, and we'll be hopefully good to go.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Because again, you know, we're not trying to have you do one thing over another. We're just trying to make good use of your time.
Right.
Yeah, if you call somebody like ADT, they should tell you how many foot candle power light you need.
He was saying you'd have to have some type of light. I said a street light or something. He said that would be more sufficient. But if what you're saying though, even if you put like one of just the outside light, something to that nature, as long as it
Sometimes
lit
just
up.
the light coming on will deter somebody, they'll run.
Right.
And just so you know, we're going by our ordinance, which is, you can find online. Page 32, I think. Illuminated signs. That's are we okay to move on? So where were we?
I think we're on to 39.
So describe off-street parking. You and stuff, handicap spaces and all that stuff. You said use existing parking.
Just like I said, down where I do the work right now, they drive in the yard. There's enough to turn a tractor trailer in there because DOT required that when they originally built it. They didn't want nobody turning around. Although I do get some truck drivers that they think they've got to do it that way, and I tell them, and they just don't listen. I don't know what you got to do with that, but
Yeah.
You drive in, they said, well, we're gonna make a hole in your drive, I don't care about that. I can go out there and kick the dirt back down, but you can drive a tractor trailer in there and turn it around, so.
No problem. Then, how often and where will delivery trucks be unloaded and loaded? And you said existing parking on a monthly basis?
Yep.
Or stuff. Will vehicles loading, unloading protrude into a public road? You said no. Will delivery trucks, delivery vehicles need to back into unloading, loading areas from a public road? No, because you can load in the truck.
Right.
How many loading bays will be provided as part of off-street parking? That's how you have nothing indicated, so that you don't intend to have loading bays.
Nope.
40, describe measures to be provided for security and fire protection for the proposed development or use. You've indicated at this time to use locks, I'm thinking for security, and fire extinguishers for fire protection.
Yep, and in the existing thing, the fire suppression, it's built in, because my shop is a spray booth. Fire marshal required that, the main state law says that if you use a rattle can and you have a sign out front, you have to have a spray booth. And I said, I can't put a spray booth in. He said, you have to have one. I said, I can't put it in because I can't lift the bolts. He said, then you have to make the building a spray booth. So my building is a spray booth.
I see.
I have fire suppression inside. I've got the ABC powder, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
They recently gutted it out and changed it all over because my insurance required to an inspection. They just went over it. And so they checked it out, and the guy found that basically it comes to T's, and they had 2 of the pipes on. Once they did that, they said this is all wrong. They gutted the whole thing. I found out I got charged double for this thing. It cost me $10,000. They put the new one in, and it was better than the original, and it cost $4,300.
Wow.
Right, that's what I said too.
Wow. I'm sorry.
I'm still wowing about it myself. Kennebec fire equipment. You judge for yourself after. I'm just telling you what happened. That's all.
Okay. Moving on, is the footprint of any building greater than 10,000 square feet? The answer is no here. Will development or use exceed capabilities of the fire department? No. And there's a note about that. Will development or use depend upon Kennebec County Sheriff's Department for security services? You said no. Number 41 is the proposed development or use located within the village district on the comprehensive plan, and it cites the land use district map. You said no. Let's see. Vegetative screening. Describe vegetative screening to be provided and maintained along all public roads. So you said natural vegetation. But, so could you elaborate a little bit more on that? I think
Basically, what grows as far as how far this will go for me, I'd like to take in, I would have liked to have left a few trees and planted grass. But money's an issue. How many people can I get in here? Where is this thing really gonna go? That's a very good question.
It's truly unfortunate that you cut every tree, because this is probably going to end up costing you money in the long run, because the ordinance requires a vegetative buffer between the public road, Route 11 there, and your your storage building, and also between Route 11 and your proposed new shop. If you had left adequate natural vegetation, that would have sufficed. But now that it's all been cut, the ordinance requires you to plant it, and it's not inconsequential. It's a planting of, I'll read it to you what the requirement is.
page 30.
It is, let's see.
See, I couldn't leave any of the trees. They want a minimum of 10 acres. I couldn't get anybody to even come out there. It cost me money to have it cut.
And that was-
Who's they?
I called, people, forest removal from.
Oh, yeah,
Junior
yeah,
to
no,
anything to do with
yeah, no,
it.
this has nothing to do with that,
Like you said, leaving a buffer, if I had left a few trees, they just.
yeah, they wanted a minimum amount that, or they weren't gonna come and cut it
That
all,
was
right?
it. They
Yeah,
weren't
well,
coming.
and that's truly unfortunate, cause it's gonna cost you money. And, let me just read it to you, it'll probably be easier. So, screening standards for public roads, the following standards apply to non-residential uses fronting public roads. All non-residential uses shall be separated from a public road by a vegetative screen or buffer. The screen shall be designated and maintained as follows. And if you had left 35 feet depth from the road or from the end of the edge of the right of way of natural trees, that would have sufficed. But since that wasn't done, then on sites which lack a previously established woodland or a planted buffer of a minimum of 25 feet in width is required. The buffer shall consist of a mixture of native trees and shrubs. Trees shall be a minimum of 4.5 feet in height at the time of planting and spaced no more than 30 feet apart, with shrubs and understory trees filling in the gaps. All shrubby planted material shall be at least 2 feet in height at time of planting, expected to grow to no less than 5 feet at maturity. And you have quite a bit of road frontage there. Not that it would apply to everything, but it would apply to the frontage along the two structures.
Sumac grows really good there.
Yes, it does.
I mean, you know, it's kind of one of these things where, so, you know, basically, you know, obviously you can't come too close to the outing of the driveway, but here, and then probably along in here. The goal is, and what the town's trying to do, and
You
places
want all
other
of
than.
this done too?
No, well, I don't think so. I don't know what the others think. So I think when you develop this, then that'll have to be done. What I would do is I would allow what's there now to grow up, but.
Which is poison sumac.
That's what grows.
Yeah, I know, but the point is to improve the attractiveness, you know, and because
like
Belgrade doesn't want to be, you know, any old mediocre town.
No, I agree with you. That's why I said I wanted to even like plant grass. I wanted to leave some of the trees, but.
Yeah, and that would have been the cheaper thing to do.
It wasn't cheaper. It cost me money just to get them in. Nobody was coming. I couldn't even clear the land to put up buildings. Unless I went out there myself and I can't do, only me.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying, and I really do agree with you. I wanted it. When I got the place in the first place, it was just, I didn't go through this because of customers. I wasn't really dealing with the public. When you got marinas bringing you boats and you're.
So that was your clientele base.
So how many trees is he talking about right here?
Well,
This
I don't
whole
know.
thing is 600 feet.
No, talk just right here.
Talking about 25 feet deep.
This section right there to cover the building that would be, the 90 feet.
So is this the edge of the right of way, or is that
That's
the
the
edge of
road.
the pavement?
Yeah, the road is right here. This is like.
Oh, this is the center line here?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Center Road.
Yep, right. Right.
Oh, Center Road. Is that the name of that road?
No, the center of the
Oh,
road.
center of the road.
So these dots would be the ditch or the edge of the pavement.
Right.
I only asked because we had a case where the DOT, right, you don't want to be putting your money into the DOT right away, right? Because there's no guarantee of what's going to happen.
Yeah,
So
they'll take it out themselves.
yeah, right, exactly.
I got my
So
mailbox last year.
it's important to know where that is, but I don't know, Roger. You know,
Well,
I mean, the scale is
1/4 inch is almost 9 feet. So if you round it off to 10, you know, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Leave some room for egress. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got 20. So that's
20 just in here, is probably another 10 down there.
yeah, right.
See, all this
But,
was
again,
before
it's
was
25 feet deep.
all that was woods in the first place.
Yeah, no, it was big, nice, mature hardwoods.
They weren't that nice.
Oh, okay. Well,
They're
they were big. Let's put it
Yeah,
that
they
way.
were big, but the
I had
tree
a
cutters
couple
said
of them, and
they're
took
rotten
to the
on the
lumber
inside.
yard, but most of it was, I think it just, whatever they do with it, he said, you don't have.
Aesthetically
much.
pleasing, I'll put it that way.
Money, that's
Yeah.
why. They weren't, nobody was coming, that was the only thing, but.
Yeah, we can see your point.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
I really, if I would've even tried to do that, I don't know how that would, I don't think I'd have it cleared.
Okay. So what I'm gonna say is that for number 42, we need to, that's gonna be a gap at this point.
And I'm pretty sure that the state right of way is 33 to 30 feet from the center line.
Thank you, Ray.
They just told me that I was looking at a metal building, it was 21 feet, so it was 42, and I had 50 feet to the center line from the edge of the wall to build. It had to be double the distance for the wall to fall, basically.
Right.
So I'm making it smaller. The peak is not that way, it's turned the other way, what do you call it, Gabriel end. So that's what it is, 14 foot, so it's only 28 feet. From the same distance, which was 42, I'm going from 28, basically. I've got plenty of room.
Yeah, right.
Just to finish up on that, that screen planning will have to be shown on your site plan too.
Okay.
It shows 36 feet from the edge here to the building.
So it's something that's gotta go up 5 feet, you said?
4.5 feet, originally. I mean, obviously it's gonna take quite some time before they grow, but to full size again, but,
Bushes or something to that
Oak
nature?
trees,
pine trees, balsam fir, whatever.
maple.
Yeah, I mean, whatever
Then
you want,
could
really.
put- Now, you also said you can put some shrubs in there, right?
Yeah, you can
2
put,
foot, they give me 2 foot high, or,
Yep. That's time.
Yes.
okay, so.
yeah,
what you get down
I mean, I could-
inside your house,
we can,
Yep.
do
and
you have,
can put that in between the trees, but you gotta put some of the hardwood trees back in. That's what this is.
Go ahead, George.
what I was gonna say is this is on page 30 of the ordinance, so, you know, that if you wanna reference, and that's available on the town website.
Okay.
Under the planning board, so, you know, it's just what I read to you.
Right, but thank you.
Is it okay if we just copy this and give you a page?
Yeah, cause it's just one paragraph really that lays it
Okay.
out.
That way you can point right to it and say, this is what we're
Right.
talking about.
So far I need certified earthman and I need to plant some trees.
And decide whether or not you want security lighting.
Right, and that too.
So there are 3 areas to think about,
Right,
right?
right.
He's copying that, are we okay to move on? Okay, thank you. Again, the next question has to do with vegetative screening, this is along the same lines.
Well, that's a property
yeah.
line,
This is
and
property line abutting-
there's no houses on either side, so nothing apply.
And there's nothing.
not required.
Nothing in the back.
Yeah.
It's already an open field.
Yeah, it's not required. I mean, if you had houses there, it would be, but there aren't.
Right,
So, you know, if somebody develops on either side, it's on them to
right.
do plantings if that's what they want.
Number 44, provide number, size, square foot, location, anchoring, and height of off-ground level of each proposed advertising or informational sign. And you said you have an existing sign.
Yep.
That's one that's there, so
Right.
does that mean no additional signs other than what's existing?
The only other sign that's gonna go up is gonna go on the opposite side of the road, it says trucks entering.
Oh.
That's required by DOT.
Yeah, no, that's not what this is about.
Right.
Will any, moving on to 45, will any exterior signs be illuminated? At this time you said no.
No.
Moving on, describe shielding to be provided of illuminated signs since you're not having any, not applicable. Moving along, planning board may require illumination brightnesses condition of approval. You said, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
So it's paragraph number 2 on that page that I was reading earlier, okay?
Right. Yep.
Which shrub you can make your land look really good with shrubs.
Are we okay to move along? Everybody?
I am.
46, is any sign to be electronically, digitally changeable? You indicated no. Describe solid waste to be generated, including type of waste. You said NA.
I mean, you must be generating going to be generating some solid waste, even if it's just minimal. I mean, I assume, you know, parts and things like that. So you'll be generating some cardboard, maybe.
They go in the
All in the dumpster.
whatever the gel coat. That was with DEP too. Any of the things that they call them hockey pucks. That's what I call it too. It's the excess left in the bottom of the cup. You just let it harden and throw it in the dumpster.
Okay.
So
My only point is the way it's answered currently, it's like you're not going to generate anything at all. If you are, it's just going to be minimal.
Right.
And it'll go into the dumpster.
Yep.
I take it, and then I don't know if that goes to the Belgrade transfer station or it goes elsewhere, but
CMD, my dumpster.
central main disposal.
Yep.
So I think that we need to tweak that language there because it.
So to more fully answer this particular question, could you edit this?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like it's going to be like minimal shop waste and office waste or something like that. I don't know what the best description is.
So rather than NA, something like minimal shop waste. How do we say it? To be disposed.
Minimal shop and office waste, or I don't know.
Minimal shop and office waste.
I mean, does that sound accurate?
Thank you.
All right, moving on, will oil, petroleum, and or propane be stored or handled on site? Other than during project construction, heating oil tank smaller than 330 gallons or propane tank 200 gallons or smaller? You said no.
So you're not planning any gasoline storage for your customers'
Oh,
boats
no.
or anything like that?
Nope.
We'll pick that up by 5-gallon can when we need it.
Okay, and what about, is there going to be in the shop, or are you going to have floor drains?
No.
No. Okay, good.
DEP wouldn't, they.
Yeah, no, I was going to say they're illegal.
Right.
Okay, no.
The only thing that's gonna get produced out of there is changing the oil, but it's just gonna go in the waste oil furnace.
Which you burn.
Right, I figured, what, you got 20 boats, 25 boats, 5 quarts at best, that's in the big block. You know, so you're 20 gallons, I put 55 gallons on one of them, but I think that's given me a little bit of room, but it just goes right in the tanks, all it does, so.
Okay, relative to the oil or petroleum question, if it were to be yes, it's asking for type and volume, you say NA. If it's to be stored on site, to describe it, you said NA. Which state or federal permits, registrations, notifications, or approvals are required to store, since you're that stuff, since you're not, you said NA. Turning the page, if a Maine State Fire Marshal permit is required for construction of above ground storage tanks, provide a number. I thinking that means since you're not, you said NA.
Right.
Is the US EPA spill prevention control and countermeasure plan required? That's, do we okay that that's under the still the NA thing? Or
Well,
do we
I had a
should
question
have
mark
no?
next to it because I wasn't sure there was a response for it at all, since
Yeah.
NA was question by question by question.
Right, yeah,
So probably the answer should be no.
I agree. So we should need change it, definitive answer on this, please.
Just so you know, there's some places they'll have 55-gallon drums, and they're supposed to be on pallets that's made to hold that amount if they leak.
Right.
And you're not gonna be having that amount, so that's why no comes in here.
Correct. So, yes.
That doesn't, yeah, the SBCC requirement doesn't kick in until you get over 1,320 gallons of storage.
Yeah, of course he was getting that much.
Yeah, it's a
I
federal-
looked into buying waste oil, and I can't even buy it because I can't burn enough of it. You have to go 800 gallons or something. I think it was 700 or 800 gallons, and I can't burn that.
Moving along, list all other applicable license, permit or registration numbers for oil, petroleum, or propane storage. You said NA because you're not storing items. Will hazardous substances be stored on site or used? You said no.
I wanted to ask a little bit about
Sure.
that more, if I could, just for clarity. In the shop, in the engine shop, how are you planning to handle like degreasers, any solvents that you might need to use, those kinds of things? Are you just going to be using small quantities so that there won't be any waste, or do you plan on having a contract with somebody like one of these solvent recycling companies, or what's that?
Safety clean.
Safety Clean.
I've got a gunk tank.
You got a parts washer?
Yep. It's
Clean
it's
takes care of
the smallest one they got. I hardly use it enough to get it really clean, but
And how do you handle the waste from that?
they
take
come
care of it.
they come and change it every 6 months.
Oh, okay. So I think we just need that specified here. We're just making sure nobody's chucking it out back or.
Remember who it is?
Safety Clean.
Oh,
You should
okay.
have that
Yeah,
written on it.
that's what we need to know, or need
Come change it
documented.
again.
Yep.
Yeah, you might want to sit up front.
So a lot of these I just didn't know what the.
Yeah, no, that's
This is
fine.
not a church, you can sit up front, you know, and stay in the back.
So I think that was under the will hazardous substances be
Yep.
stored on sites rather than no, so we say yes. What would be a good
Cleaning agent,
cleaning agent?
and then underneath, safety clean.
Right, so you guys know where it comes from.
Right, and that it's basically being recycled.
Right.
And other than that, I mean, I have my reducers and things to that, but that was all under the other one.
Does,
We only
Safety
have,
Clean do the same thing with your antifreeze?
I don't play with the antifreeze.
Okay.
The only antifreeze I got is the pink for the winterizing and stuff. I can stay up front.
Okay, is it okay to move on?
Yes.
Everybody? Will hazardous special or universal wastes, which including waste oil and waste antifreeze, be generated by the project? And you said yes. Describe type, characteristics, and estimated quantities of waste. So for waste oil, you indicate 55 gallons, and is that the material that you burn?
Yep.
The waste oil?
and that's the maximum, you think?
Well, I figured 20 boats, 18 boats, maybe 25, and you figure if they all had big blocks, that's 5 quarts each engine. You're talking 25 gallons, you know what I mean? You're not even up to 55 gallons. That's if I changed everybody's oil.
How do you plan on, or how are you now handling the, I'm not that familiar with those waste oil burners. I mean, I've seen a couple, but different people, you know, some people have it hooked up to a 75 gallon regular old heating oil tank, you know. I was just wondering how you plan on moving the waste oil around from you're obviously dumping it into the barrel, and then is the barrel going to be fed by piping to the furnace, or?
The furnace, if you go in and look at it, most people don't even know that the waste oil furnace is a waste oil furnace. They think it's just a regular one.
Right.
It's got the same regular tank. I've got my 5 gallon, you know, like they use in the garages. You can pour, you know, from your oil from the lift, stuff like that. I just dump it in there, then I just dump it right into the tank.
Oh, okay. Because I was sort of getting off, working off of Roger's, with the point Roger made earlier, because it's sort of best management practice in like the auto repair industry anyway, that waste oil be up on elevated so you can inspect the barrel.
Right.
Determine if it's
the barrels that I have at the shop. I have 55 gallon drums, and what I was doing at other marinas like Clark Marine used to give me their waste oil. So I was just going to take the empty barrels, empty theirs, put it in my tank. So I basically was having, lately everybody's been, we won't go there, just people are people, I guess, whatever. So I just buy regular heating oil now, but whatever I can put in there for oil, I'll take it and put it in.
Waste oil is such means so many different things to so many different people that, you know, I actually know of cases where people have gotten gasoline mixed in with the waste oil.
Yeah, that ain't good.
No, that's not good. Or solvents even.
Solvents. It ruins the warranty on my furnace, basically.
Yeah, not to mention a potential fire or explosion hazard.
It burns too hot. You can't do it. You can smell it. You can smell it in it. At first, the first few years, it was a little difficult playing with it, but basically, I've got a pump that sticks right down into the tank, and I'll run it off on theirs at their facility. I'll take and run it first, because a lot of times the water separates. You'll pump out watery oil, and I'll just pump it back into their containers and leave it with them until it comes out looking like molasses. Then you've got good waste oil, because other than that, you got sludge. It doesn't burn. Gas, like you said, man, that's that.
So moving along here, it says, how will the waste be stored or handled? We've indicated using the waste oil furnace, and how will they be disposed? Again, the waste oil furnace, assuming it that way.
And it sounds like it's going to be stored in a regular heating oil tank, right?
Yes, it is. It's right underneath the furnace.
So that, you know, in terms of the question, how will these wastes be properly stored and handled? It's storage in a heating oil tank. Standard heating oil tank.
So here, so to indicate
I'm sorry. Back to the front of the class again.
Right.
So relative to the question about how they're stored.
Better than the back corner of the class.
What we're saying is in a, what'd you say, heating oil furnace?
Yes, standard heating oil tank.
Standard heating oil tank. Waste oil furnace. Okay, moving on to page 17. Which federal or state permits, registrations, notifications, or approvals are required to generate, store, handle, or dispose of these waste? List all applicable and provide license permit or registration numbers. We indicated NA, we have no permits. 51, if you answered yes to any of the questions 48 through 50, provide the following information. We didn't have any yeses, did we? Actually, yes. 49 is now a yes, right? Because 49, the question was, will hazardous substances be stored on site?
Right, yeah. He still had to go on, but it's not gonna trigger anything.
So, so for 51, if yes on any of the previous couple of questions, provide the following information. So, question states, will any portion of your development or use be located on a significant sand and gravel aquifer as mapped by the Maine Geological Survey? With the map, you indicated no. And that should strike true, right, George? In that area, do you recall that area having?
Yeah, there's no sand and gravel aquifer there.
Next, will any portion of your project or use be within 300 feet of a private drinking water well, 1,000 feet of a public drinking water supply, or within the source water protection area of a public drinking well as mapped by the Maine Drinking Water Program? You've indicated no. I think that makes sense.
I think when we originally got in trouble with this, we wanted to make a note in there if it was gonna be stored outside, that's when this would kick in, but he's storing it inside, on concrete.
You are right in that he is storing it inside.
Yeah, it actually wouldn't matter. It's a matter of volume.
Right.
But none of the concerns we've had before apply here, because the storage tank he's using is just your standard 275. It's no different than the heating oil tanks in any of our houses, so it doesn't trigger that concern or those regulatory requirements at the state level. If he had a 500-gallon waste oil tank out of doors, it would.
Right.
Or even indoors.
Yeah, even indoors, right. Moving along, number 52, will the proposed activity discharge pollutants to any surface water bodies or groundwater, including by way of subsurface wastewater disposal system? You said no. Actually, no and NA, but I think no is a better answer. Number 53, will any groundwater discharge result in any groundwater quality measure exceeding 1/2 the federal primary drinking water standard or state maximum exposure drinking water guideline? That's a mouthful. You said no. Next, will groundwater exceed any federal secondary drinking water standard? You said no. Will groundwater withdrawal, including for drinking water, supply or alterations to site surface water recharge characteristics lower the groundwater table beyond the property line? You said no. And then there's a note that talks about some of that. 55, provide the total area in square feet of impervious area of the development or use, including but not limited to the footprint area of all structures, as well as paved and gravel roads, walkways, etc. The number you provided is 12,000 square feet.
12,500.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
You are. I'm sorry. 12,500. So that's the proposed structures and the parking areas for each.
This stuff right here over on this building where this is already there, the groundwork beside it. There is nothing to add there, it's already there. The only thing is just doing this up here, and then we included what was gonna be the turnaround. I needed enough turnaround for the building setbacks, why I say with a pickup, because I'm gonna have like sliding doors all the way across the front so I can get close anywhere I wanna put it. Otherwise, it makes it difficult moving around, because it's just gonna be, regular ground. I was gonna put footer walls and slab and all kinds of things, but the money, it's just a lot of money, so.
Sure. So this 12,500 is what you just indicated. And then 56, provide the total square feet of disturbed area of the development for change of use, 12,500 square feet. You got stars next to these. Do you have questions?
I'm guessing those are ones you went back, had to go find the answers to and came back to.
Go back.
No, that was when Gary was pointing certain things out to me, and I said, I gotta make sure I get those correct. So-
Don't go too far. You got 57 to fill in.
How many linear feet of new
Oh,
road? Yeah, and that is a start, so Gary pointed to that one.
right,
Do you have a calculation for that?
I don't know what a linear foot is, sorry about that, that's my thing.
Oh, so how many linear feet of new road or driveway is proposed? So
It would
this
be-
with this one is right, because this is new, this is not existing, correct?
Right, this is 110 feet basically, what we got there, from, yes.
So what's our concern here?
It's from the driveway, the open, the entryway. 110 feet basically.
Is that what we want, that, because I think of linear, but I'm not sure which thing is of most concern.
Yeah, I mean, since there's almost nothing going in that direction, I would say it's a distance cross like that.
And it goes to nothing, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not meant to be a measure of area.
Right. So we would think, so that's 110, like
Yep.
from here.
I'm pretty sure that's what I was told, right? That's 36 feet. Okay, he's going from there.
Yeah.
It's 110. I'm almost positive. 120 possibly, but I'm almost positive he said 110.
Yeah, 110, close enough.
Okay. So just write 110 here.
Yep. That should work.
Yeah, because it gets to a point, so it's,
It works for the truck though, with a truck in a boat, 20 footer, you get about 40 feet right there, so gives me some room to maneuver.
Turning the page, what is the allowed phosphorus export in pounds per acre as established by Article 6B of this table? And we filled in the 0.068 pounds of phosphorus per acre.
I looked it up and I thought that's what you were supposed to write. That was a question mark in my mind, basically, but
Yeah, because you had a star by that.
I looked it up and that's what I found.
So does anybody go to that standard?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Okay, perfect. Well done. 60, has this development received a storm water management plan permit from DEP? You indicated no.
They write me as long as everything stays like it is. I don't have nothing that I'm doing, so I'm on their, whatever you call it, list. I should have brought the paper. I have DEP home in the office, the filing thing, but they call me up, what is it, every year, I think it is. I have to just fill out the same thing and say that it's still what it is, which I'm not doing anything different. It's just,
I don't think it's large enough to trigger the state requirement.
Right, I would think it was not.
Right.
No, if your response to question 60 is no, and exceed development rate. But you're not, you're at 12,500, this is an exceeding, so 15,000.
But he did.
Right, or the 7,500 square foot of impervious surfaces, or 250 feet of new road or driveway.
But he, based on that earlier response of 12,500 square feet of impervious surface exceeds the 7,500. I'm not sure. I would want to double check whether that 12,500.
What did you say about 75?
So this reads, if your response to question 60 is no, and the development as proposed will exceed 15,000 square feet of disturbed area, or exceed 7,500 square feet of impervious surfaces. This is
That's not a DEP requirement, though, right?
No, this is our own requirement for a
Right.
stormwater management plan.
Okay.
Right.
Or not a plan, but triggering those requirements,
Right, because we're looking for some.
because, I mean, it seems like 12,500 is high to me, but that's just my gut, without having done the measurement.
That's kind of, the way Paul Sally, like I said, the guy that would do the earthwork, that was pretty much what he was giving me, he was guessing the whole thing.
It's important because, if you exceed 7,500 square feet of impervious surface, it triggers a requirement for managing the stormwater coming off the rooftops, off all the parking areas and all that. Not that that's incredibly onerous, but it might, I hate to say this, but it might mean planting more vegetation down gradient on your property. Or, well, actually, maybe not necessarily planting it, but just letting it grow up and leave it, basically.
And he's got a perfect place with that gully.
Yeah, although if you look at a topo map, that goes all the way down, and I don't know at what point it becomes a stream goes down to Mesolonsky. But that's so, it might be worth double checking, because it's, the rooftop, the new,
Right.
not the existing, but the new only. Roof surface areas, or new footprint of the buildings, and your new parking driveway areas. My gut is that that's not over 12,500, but I could be way off the mark.
I think you're right.
Well, the
That's
addition to your existing shop,
Mhm.
that's already a gravel area, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
that doesn't count.
So you're not adding any there.
No, it's just up top, the 60 by 90, but with a driveway, he was trying to, how do I put it? Be on the safe side, so to speak,
Yeah,
you're covered.
All right, back of the envelope calculations on my part, just looking at the drawing, not with that drawing, because we didn't get that before the meeting, but what we had in our packet, I came up with 7,000 square feet of impervious area.
Wow.
So that's why I'm saying I would double check that.
Right.
I mean, not that it's a particularly onerous requirement, but because otherwise, let's say it's over 7,500. What the ordinance would require you to do is to designate. I don't remember exactly what the width of it would be, but it would be for a buffer strip at the low end of your property, be reserved for an area for stormwater that comes off your to infiltrate into the ground rather than run across the ground.
Right, you measured out 7. So there's 110. You did all the way to the point. That's what you came up with.
Well, I think that's primary. I may not have enough in there. Well, yeah. See, the drawings we got didn't show the driveway, the new driveway turnaround area was associated with the storage building. I just had the dimensions of the buildings. So my number may be off. Okay, I'm just saying, like, it's back in the envelope, but that's why I'm just questioning. You may want to double check.
Both buildings in there. It's like Gary said. The other building, all that's already from.
Yeah, no, the existing building doesn't count towards this.
Okay.
Your existing driveway and all doesn't count towards this. It's only what you're proposing under this permit.
Right.
If you do that calculation, that would be the thing to find out.
So go up there and measure it off, basically get the tape measure out and just go up there and measure it.
Yep, and do some math and figure out how many square feet it is. If it's over 7,500 square feet of impervious surfaces, this would be what George is talking about, where this ordinance would require this strip at the low end to
Do you figure how many feet just the building is?
stormwater.
I think so. I think that's what I did.
What, just the building is all you got?
I think so.
And
How
you
big's
come
the
up with
building?
7,000?
60 by
I think
90,
so.
1,600 feet.
But I didn't have the benefit of that.
Yeah, but another 500 feet of impervious for a driveway.
I got about 110 feet for the driveway.
Yeah, by
60
feet at its widest.
I don't know. I might be close. I don't know.
You have to do fancy math to do
Yeah, it's better to get it accurate than
Let's
the,
say if you'd cut this off somewhere here and turn it around, square it off, it'd be 60 by probably 60 or 80.
Right, so
Whatever
the,
you'd come up with.
the building's 5,400 square feet, right? 60 by 90?
Yep.
And then if you did 60 by 60, that's not
For a driveway.
that's not 3,600. So in rough terms, we're just doing my math at 930.
You're still over 79,
Right.
say 86 or whatever, yeah. So I have to plant more vegetation basically to do this.
no, I don't think so. I think it would be basically allowing what's been cut in the back part of the property, and I don't know that, yeah, just let it grow up. I mean, basically all you want is to have it be rough and natural so that as water comes down to that, it infiltrates into the ground rather than continues on its merry way to Meslonsky.
The entryway, I have to put culverts in. DOT required that. I can't remember, was it 48 or something? I have to buy 2 or 3 tubes basically or something. The third one, you cut a piece of it off, but they're gonna run it down the length of the property going the road frontage, so to speak. For plowing purposes, he was concerned about that. He told the guy doing earthwork, I'm hoping this guy's certified because he's got it all down what he needs to do. He knows exactly what the guy's talking about, and he said, I'll do this, and he said, you do that, we'll be good. Plowing will be good, your culvert will be good, put an apron there, your turnaround, you should be good, but I think your footage though, I think what you guys said, probably the 86, I think that's more in line what it is.
Quite likely, you know, I mean.
Even if you called it 9 to be on the safe side, I think that's what he was doing when he put that out. He said, I'm just gonna call it that. So I said, all right, I'll write that in then.
Sure. I can understand his point of view, and I'm hoping that you can understand our
Yep.
point of view too, that, you know, we're at that point. And
Right.
so I guess I would indicate at this point that in this area that we're talking about, that based on our conversation, that if you understand this idea about having this way to control stormwater and phosphorus would be by stating that you will allow for vegetation to grow to control surface runoff.
Right.
So
Including a sediment pond if you put one in at the lower end.
A sediment pond?
Yeah, where all your excess water will run and stay there and just go through the ground.
Well, it's all like what's already there, Pat.
Right.
Because down that lower end of that gully is like a sediment pond.
Right.
It's all growing in, and all the water stays there when we do have it.
The thing that I noticed when the trees all were cleared out for this past summer, all the rain that we did have, I didn't have anything in there anymore. As far as what used to get damp a little bit, when the trees were gone, it was all dried up most of the time. You didn't have the same thing that I used to have. It changed.
But it's in case of, like, let's say your neighbor puts a garage up right close to your swimming pool,
Okay.
and you have a real good heavy rain for a day and a half. Now all the water's coming off the roof.
Right.
It doesn't go his land anymore, it goes across onto yours into your pool.
Right. Right.
So basically, it's just to keep it on your land, keep it from going down
I see. Yeah.
down to the railroad tracks and into the lake.
Okay.
Okay. Which that spot down at the end already holds all that.
Okay. So
Show that on the plan.
right.
Yeah. Just to take this to the next step, I was just looking at the ordinance. If, for example, the impervious area is greater than 75, turns out to be greater than 7,500 square feet, after you kind of remeasure it, the requirement would be for a buffer of, assuming you're going to allow it to grow back into trees, 50 feet in depth at the back, along the back line of your property line. So that would be the that would be the solution that would be consistent with the ordinance.
50 feet. So the pond, the thing down there, what you're calling that?
Well, I mean, that could be part of the solution too, you know,
Well,
so,
see, we didn't disturb anything down at that end. Really speaking, there was no trees down in there.
No,
it was too
there
wet.
Oh, it's just vegetation, you know,
swale grass, whatever you wanna
Yeah.
call it,
Okay, yeah.
stuff of that nature, but like I said, even after, when all the trees got cut, that even started drying up a lot.
right,
It wasn't the same thing what it was before, but I know what you're saying.
We
You're gonna
do
have a
want
roof,
roofs.
it's gonna run off, it's gonna create, I see what you're saying. Never thought of it like that, but that does make sense.
So you see a lot of places where they've got a fenced-in area or they've got a pond where it collects, and that has to be cleaned out every once in a while if there's a lot of sand that collects. That's all that is, to retention pond type deal.
Okay, okay,
Well, we never disturbed that area down there.
yeah.
no,
So that would be could be part and parcel of the solution.
Yep.
Right.
so I'm all set then.
Well,
Well,
along
show
with,
it on your plan.
yeah, show it on your plan, and also, no, you still would need to provide buffer elsewhere, an area for infiltration elsewhere that's down gradient from the two new structures and stuff to, again, the whole purpose is to get as much of the runoff to infiltrate into the ground, obviously, other than in winter, and rather than collect into that little streamlet or whatever it is and make its way further down into, because what it does is it carries nutrients with it, is the whole issue that we're trying to address, or the ordinance is trying to address.
And in other speak, we want those nutrients to stay, but not go to the lake.
Right.
Which I don't think we have a problem with.
I really don't think you're gonna have, except for what Roger's pointing out about it, that I don't know, cause I can't see that, but what I saw last summer, that changed a lot. That was like night and day.
I was
what
gonna say,
it's-
we were
what it
able to
was.
walk across it after we
Yep.
opened her up.
I never used to, you had to jump or walk on logs to get across. You don't do that no more.
It's pretty dry.
You let the sun in there and dry it
Right.
out.
Yeah,
it
it makes a huge difference.
But what he's saying, that might change, so.
Alright, so are we okay to move to 62? This is the development or change of use to include, new mineral extraction, overnight accommodations, bed and breakfast, telecommunication tower, or wind energy facility. It says check where applicable, none are applicable, so you said NA. 63 for existing gravel, sand, or other mining operations. Will there be an increase in footprint of buildings? You said NA because it doesn't apply to you, because you're not doing sand and gravel or mining. Or will there be an increase in footprint area of the impervious surfaces, NA, as it pertains to the fact that you're not doing other mineral extraction? Turning the page. Will there be an increase in the volume of toxic, flammable, or combustible hazardous substances to be used or stored? You said no. Also NA, but you said no.
I went over that thing a few times, so as I went over, it's like one time I didn't think it applied, and then other times it was like, maybe I should answer.
Thank you. How does the board feel about that? Because we're in the area of existing gravel, sand, or mining operations.
Oh, the rest of it, the application doesn't apply at all to them. Because they're not a ground pit, not a
Sand.
hotel, B&B, or windmill, or commercial,
Right.
cell phone tower.
Right.
Yeah, no, none of the rest applies.
Right. So from 63, question 63 through the end of the questions on this, which is none apply. because that's not the operation that they're doing. Okay, and there, well, for the record, is A on everything that you indicated, so I think we're in good shape, bottom line. Having said that, you've, it says on page 29, please read and sign that you certified to the best of your knowledge that everything is correct. And you signed that and dated it. So thank you for doing that. So at this point, we know we have a couple things for consideration, correct? There were 3 things that we've already talked about, right? How does the board wish to proceed? Knowing that there are 3 question marks.
Well, without knowing the answers to those questions, and part of it may, at least one case, involve a decision on their part as to, you know, what, for example, with the lighting, you know, what they want to do with that, whether to do something now or wait and deal with it later, in an amendment to the application at some point. It's kind of hard to move forward until we have that information. There's also, when we get to it, I just want to point out some things that are missing from the drawing that will need to be added to that before we have a complete application.
Okay. I'm in agreement. I think that we can't proceed until we know what you want to do with those couple of things we talked about.
And maybe it would be helpful once we get done with all this to kind of rehash it just so that we're all on the same page.
Yep.
So
I think as far as the security, if it comes down to it, I'll just come back.
okay.
I will make that
Yeah,
one.
no, I mean, that's entirely your call. It's
Right.
just.
Yep. Okay, so how does the board, what does the board wish to say this time?
Can we just go over the drawing for a moment?
Yeah.
And, I noticed a couple things that the ordinance requires, fairly basic stuff that the site plan needs. You know, some of this, we have a scale on it. We need a north arrow. We got parcel boundaries, location. We got dimensions of buildings and
What page?
I'm on page 9, paragraph F.
So a site plan shall have a north arrow and scale bar, parcel boundaries and develop site. Location on the site, information of all existing and proposed buildings and structures.
He's got a scale bar, but he doesn't have the
North arrow. Indicated the disturbed areas on the site, including regular parks, impervious areas. Are there any floodplains, water courses, water bodies, or wetlands? If so, put them on there. We don't have shoreline zoning districts in this particular case. This is not in the shoreline zoning district affecting the property. Location of significant areas of existing vegetation and proposed new vegetation, landscaping. So we have to, I gotta show that, yes. If you have a well, indicate,
And then we'll have to show on the back, right?
just the front. But, you know, 10 here, 10 along here, and so
But because of the 79 I was over, didn't I have to do something with the back here?
what, so Roger, what he's talking about is that, last, thing that we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Stormwater and phosphorus.
Yeah.
So however the land slopes, it does something like this, going back this way.
Right about here is right where she dips down, and right here on the edge of the shop is the other edge where it comes up.
And that wet area that you guys were describing, is that in here somewhere?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, actually, you know, I was, probably what would make sense is to have it on the edges, on the upslope edges of that I'll call it a ravine for lack of a better term on my part, so that you're capturing it before it gets down in there. Although,
My biggest concern is how much that's gonna produce. Cause what I saw last, I think what you're looking for, I think you really are all set, but do whatever you wanna do. But I'm curious about this thing.
you said the land slopes like this, right?
Yeah, well, the
And
back of this,
there.
this right here is where it goes down the hill. And then the edge of this thing is gonna be the other part where this basically the driveway, the whole thing. This, if I get to do it, will be my new driveway into the thing. And then behind here will be a 40 by 80.
Yeah.
And then about here or so, about 150 feet, 200 by 60.
The, see, I wasn't,
You can
you know,
come over
we're
and
not
look
supposed
if
to
you
design
want.
your project for you, but, you know, you may wanna, you may wanna think about this in the context of what else do you wanna do, so you don't end up doing things twice.
Right.
Because if you put in another driveway here for the other building, that's more impervious area.
Right.
So that's gonna be a lot more water you're gonna have to.
See, at that point, then you may trigger the requirement where you have to get an engineer to do a
Right.
stormwater management plan for you, because then the simple solution I'm talking about may no longer apply.
Right.
That's just stuff to
Well,
think
this
about.
is the next one coming up. I mean,
Yeah,
right
I mean,
now,
just-
what's happening, this is all that's happening right now, but I see what you're saying. So a culvert basically down taking care.
I'm not sure what it would be. I'm just saying that it all, once you start getting into that kind of dimensions of a project, then it becomes more complex and the ordinance requires more, because of the, you know, more than likely, if you trigger the 7,500 square feet that we talked about before, it's gonna be just barely,
Right.
is my guess. You know, and that's all it is that
Right.
you can get by with just having these infiltration buffers, you know, where you just designate them and let them grow up into, you know, whatever sprouts and it really it can't be on the slope, down slope, because the water's gonna be running too fast when it, you know, say you get a thunderstorm or something like that, to infiltrate. You need it on the upslope part of it where it's relatively flat
Right.
for it to work.
We won't worry about that right now, but
No.
this right here, the bank, we don't even want to disturb it, basically.
So, you know, it'd be on the 50 feet I was describing would be on the upslope.
Right.
So, you know, if, that's the original. So if, you know, if you got your building up here, you know, you want your 50 feet somewhere in between here and in this area.
That makes sense.
I see. This one I'd have to extend into the thing more, basically. 50 feet you would add, yeah. But that would be all, but see, that would be all part of making the thing, I thought of rocks, basically rock wall, so to speak, to hold the thing up to an nature, to railroad ties, all kinds of things have come to mind. This one right here would just be natural.
Yeah, I mean, you got
Right.
trees that were, you know, you got stumps there, they're gonna sprout.
Right.
It's just a matter of designating it on the drawing that it's gonna be left as is.
Right. I wanna make it look nice
Right,
now.
right,
That's-
right,
That's
right.
my biggest thing. I don't
Sure.
know. I mean, before it didn't matter to the public as much, but this time it's to the public, so I kinda wanna do that, but I just.
You know, this will help in that regard.
Show where
a
the
little
honey
bit.
tree is, oh,
I know, right? Where is that honey tree?
Cut it down.
I did,
I know there was some apple trees.
Hopefully it isn't on your neighbor's property.
yeah, it probably is.
That's all. Alright, so does that make sense?
Yep.
Gentlemen, for what
Yep.
we're asking for?
Yep.
Or what the plan what will be required of the plan?
So basically on that back slope, I'll do something there, you got an idea, so you'll help me out on that. We're gonna plant on the front side, and I gotta get you, show these things on the map there. Yep. And so I gotta take that with me. then,
Yeah, you do.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
Right.
when we got back. Now,
Yep.
just 1 second. Do we have a link to or point to BMPs for, stormwater and phosphorus control things?
Yeah,
Okay.
where I got the 50 feet from actually is under phosphorus control, and if you give me a second, I'll get it. So it's on page 37, and it's under 5A, simplified phosphorus method. And
There you go.
and so if you go down there about halfway, if the watershed phosphorus budget is greater than 0.05, which it is,
It's 0.068,
then a wooded buffer would be 50 feet.
Yep. That's what we're talking about. So in the ordinance on page 37, just what he's talking about, it shows exactly the dimension needed. Okay? That's where the 50 feet comes from. We didn't pull this out of.
Right.
It's because
Right,
the
okay,
math that goes along
I
with
get
it.
it.
So, then I just want to point out to you, there are, you can do a quick search to see what it might look like where people have employed these types of buffers that we're talking about. So you get a visual and say, oh, I see what a 50-foot buffer is supposed to look like.
Okay,
And that's what I'm trying to point at, right?
so I just punch that in the search engine most likely, I'm sure I'll get something out of it.
I'm positive that would be helpful.
Okay, so 50 foot, we want that out front and plan. You pretty much remember these things, right?
Yep.
Good, I hope so.
Okay.
Right.
I know the DEP has.
Gary doesn't want me to bother him no more.
Yeah, we know he told you that.
And I know that DEP has some phosphorus control standards that they can also help
Right,
show you what they're like. So please use their services
okay,
to guide you to get the best product possible. And indicate that on the site plan.
okay,
Okay.
all right.
So, board, we've gone through the application as it was submitted. We've indicated to the applicant where there were some things to fill in.
Right.
We've described those to you. Do you understand what we're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have other questions for us about what we're asking for?
No.
Board, do we have other?
Well, so here's my list, and
Sure.
just, to reiterate, make sure we're, all kind of on the same page. One item was the DEP certified contractor, but that could be dealt with as a condition of approval that, once you know who you're gonna hire, that information be provided to Gary, for example, in case, you can't provide it now. Another was, you already said the business with the security lighting, you're probably gonna delay down the road some,
Right.
so we can take that off the list. The need for, under question number 42, the need for vegetative screening along the highway. And then question number 61, the need to kind of recalculate the amount of impervious area to determine whether or not it's over 7,500 square feet, and if so, to show on the drawing not only the vegetative, the buffer along the road, but the where you're going to have your 50 feet of screening, 50 feet of infiltration buffer. Excuse me.
50 feet behind the building, and out front, we gotta just cover up the building, basically, put some
Trees and shrubs.
right. That's pretty much it, and put it on the drawing.
Yep, that's it.
That is pretty much it.
Why didn't I say that?
I gotta see what Paul says though about his certificate though, that's the whole ticket.
Well, there's another, if that's somebody you really want to go with, the way to get around that is to have somebody that is certified basically inspect their work after they're done. It's like, it's like if I did electrical work and I'm not a licensed electrician, I then get a licensed electrician to inspect my work.
Well, he's basically looking at saving me $10,000. That's why I'm leaning more in that direction.
That's a good reason.
I've known the guy now a few years. I met him camping and stuff, and he's been around for a long time. That's why he was the one, basically did me a favor to come over and help me do that. In order for him to get.
Well, and maybe he's certified, I don't know, you know.
Maybe he might be.
I mean, if he does any work along the lakes, he's probably certified.
He seems to know everything what I gotta be doing, so.
Sure.
He knew the culverts and everything where they were going. He showed the guy, and DOT they were good with it. They were like, yep, you do that, we'll be good, so.
Good. But he is certified, but
Right.
ask him and get his number.
Hopefully he is.
Right.
when do
So
you
he
want-
must have a certificate or something that
Right.
shows that
Yeah,
he's taken.
yeah,
the
they all
course.
have certificates and they have a number.
Right,
I like
okay.
Certificate,
All right, I need
verification
that
number.
plan though.
Yep.
Sure.
And when would you like to come back?
Let me get a hold of people first and see what it is. Sometimes this is like pulling teeth.
Probably April, the first meeting in,
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
That gives you a month.
The next one, I could go the next one, but I gotta have it in, I gotta have this back by what, another week or so?
No,
No.
so they don't take these issues up at the second meeting.
Oh,
They're working on ordinances.
okay, so April. All right.
Yeah, April
The fifth, I believe, is the
Fifth.
first Thursday.
First Thursday, all right, so we'll do that, and I'll shoot for that. If anything happens, I will
Okay.
really try to give you plenty of time, so
That gives you a month.
I don't wanna mess you up. Okay,
That gives you a month. Little over.
sounds awesome.
So, Peter, I'll make a motion that we table the application, for, completion.
Any more discussion? Any questions? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to just tell you, I think you've done a lot of work that was evident in your application, so thank you for putting forth the effort.
I thought I didn't do enough. I had to do a lot of signing my initials.
Well, and we went through some stuff, and it's, you know, if you don't do it every day, you're not gonna know everything, but thank you for the effort that you did put in. I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and it does help, and I know it can be a lot of detail, so.
I'm just not, that's not my line of work.
Yeah.
I can paint a boat in my sleep, but.
Well, and we can't.
Yeah.
You guys do this.
Don't worry about bothering Gary, he's retired.
Yeah, whatever that's supposed to mean, right? You work more hours.
Yeah.
All right, I'm out of here, I'm going home.
All right.
Thank you very kindly, guys.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
I hope you have a good evening.
Thanks.
You too.
Safe journeys.
So, the next meeting he attends, am I sending out notices for that meeting? Or will that be the meeting we're gonna decide? That's a complete application, then the next meeting is when I send out notices.
I think you send them out between now and then, don't you?
Well, the ordinance actually says once we have a complete application, but that's not what we did last time, of course.
Right.
I mean, I think, the question is how, I don't think it matters.
Because basically, it may not matter, because I think we're anticipating it will be complete the next time we see it.
Yeah, so that would allow it all to be done right then and there, which is a good thing.
So if you notify people, then they'll.
Yeah,
You're gonna email the other
Is
three
what?
members about the site visit?
I mean,
No, I'm gonna have to make the.
so what is there, maybe 3 houses within 500 feet or so?
There isn't many.
Not many.
No,
And the one across the street apparently is vacant?
sounds like it.
Yeah, that's vacant, the other one isn't occupied yet.
Yeah,
That
so,
new house-
well, anyway,
Site limit, yeah.
Nick will figure it out.
The new house?
I also have.
I mean, it goes to the landowners, you know, whether it's
So
occupied.
Parish Manson canceled. I called him. He seemed, I don't know what was going on with him, but he wanted to be on the next meeting. And he got hung up before I could say anything. He wanted to see what the board says. So are you guys okay with him on the next meeting or?
No.
No.
From my opinion, because we have to get some work done on the shoreline zoning ordinance.
Yeah,
And you know, we made special accommodations for that applicant last time, and we put off the shoreline zoning work. Now, other board members may feel differently, I'm just letting you know how I feel about it.
yeah.
I wanna help out, but at the same time,
I agree. I mean, I think we've made reasonable effort to accommodate whatever urgency there is on their part.
Yeah.
And, with you know, taking them instead of doing shoreline zoning. So, I would say we get back on track with the shoreline zoning.
Yeah, me too. Roger, how do you feel? I mean, I don't want that, the applicants to be delayed anymore, but at the same time, if they want to move forward, I don't know what else to do. So, I would say April 5th, that's the next time. Okay. Nick is back in the house, back in the seat, so may we do the minutes from tonight and then go? Yeah.
We can if you want.
Can we do that? So, suggestions, comments, edits?
I got a bunch of rinky-dink little editorial typo type stuff, so why don't I just give those to Nick for the sake of time, and
There's some spelling things
the one, so under old business, number one, the one substantive change I wanted to, well, two actually, but the first would be halfway down. It's on the line that starts with disagreed on what the attorney was saying,
yeah.
and then it goes on. George interpreted what Franklin's that sentence. I was thinking maybe it would be good to just eliminate that whole sentence, because then it kind of becomes a gateway to having the whole discussing all the different things that came into play there, including, you know, actually it's the Marins who sold the lot, and then, you know, the disagreement over, you know, my interpretation that, you know, of how many lots needed to be in the subdivision in total, and blah, blah, blah. I would say just eliminate that sentence and not get into it there.
Okay.
And then, and this partly helps with this, is if second to last line after the word attorney, add some language mentioning the letter from you, Peter, to the town attorney, so that gives people, if they look at this, that I need to look at this letter to get the details. So that would read attorney, let's see, let me go back. Peter, Sergeant motioned to table the discussion until they receive a response from the town's attorney. And then I would suggest adding to a letter from Peter Rushton detailing the board's additional questions.
That sets the
And
stage.
that way, if we eliminate that other sentence, there's, you know, although it, we don't have to reiterate all the arguments.
Right. Yep, excellent.
The, under new business 1, reason Shoreland, I assume we want non-conforming structure there? Is that correct? So I'm asking the others. Okay, and then, under on the next page, number 2, under Sean Grant, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down in the body there, line starting with Shoreland, I would add zoning after Shoreland, I guess. I like the concept of the, when application comes in conflict with any other ordinance, it's the stringiest that applies. I like that. I like, that must be a legal concept I'm not familiar with. That's a, and then the second to last line, I would suggest some slightly different language. Client, comma, Sean Grant, to rather than go for the table, Sean Grant request board to table the application, and then continuing on, Sean Grant rather than ask for a table, Sean Grant did so.
That makes sense.
And then everything else is just typos.
You missed it. Yeah, typo. Old business, very last line. I didn't second the meeting, I second the motion.
Okay, yeah, I noticed some spelling things and stuff, but I'm thinking probably George did them without saying it. But one example, under old business, in the parish minutes of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, board to approve did not err. So I'm thinking that's probably in George's edit. So there are some things like that. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
it's there. So I'm good, and I'm trusting what George has for edits on spelling.
Well, I may have caught a few of them, but I know Rich always catches things that I don't, as do the rest of you, so.
We all try. So we have some edits that have been recommended, and I think there'll probably be a piece of paper pointing to some stuff. And did you understand anything about stringiest versus core word? Okay, sorry. Stringiest.
I got that right. I had to say something. I just love that.
Funny. So, okay, so with some edits, did you have other ones? Okay, so having that, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Of February 1st.
On February 1st, thank you.
Any second? Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Thank you all.
Was this something real quick, volunteer amendment?
She has to come back.
Yeah, they didn't have enough.
On the agenda, but-
April 5th?
Yeah, they didn't have enough copy. They need another copy of the Mylar.
Everybody that was here tonight's gonna be back on the agenda. The Chaput.
That's a short way of saying we didn't accomplish a whole lot.
Now sometime, I think probably between now and the first meeting in April, I've got another commercial development application coming in.
Really?
Yeah, should be. Bella Vance down here on 27th. They wanna build some self-storage buildings.
Did they sell that property, or they themselves are gonna do that?
They're gonna do it.
Okay.
That was for sale for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Huh, okay. Good enough. What other news or updates?
The other thing is, I think Andy Dunbar, Sean Graham, I think Andy Dunbar is gonna come back to the board. You tabled his application, right?
Yep.
I think he's gonna ask for a denial, to go to the Board of Appeals. He's gonna ask you to deny the application versus table the application.
Yeah, I don't honestly see from what was presented as it was,
Yeah.
how it could be improved, which we stated.
Right.
We talked about the, difficulties in improving. I'm not trying to predict an outcome, but based on what I saw, I thought it was gonna be very hard.
We'll let the Board of Appeals deal with the stringiest
Yeah.
of standards.
All right.
Sorry, Nick.
Board of Appeals has a new chairman, Mike Hino, right? He's the new chairman.
And we have a town meeting coming up.
Yeah, that's right, the 18th, sorry?
The
Yep.
16th is voting, 17th is the open forum.
That reminds me, I need a couple absentee ballots. Gary, if you think of it, check on that, that landscape place there down at 27 too. The permits.
Can you pull that folder for me sometime? Planning board, it's a planning board folder.
What's the project, commercial?
Yeah,
Native
Native
notions.
Notions.
Native Notions, a landscape company.
No, was it? What I think it was last meeting.
I think it is.
Is,
Yeah. I can't. Is his last name Rancourt?
I can't remember.
I'll look online, I'm sure it's online.
He had a name that's like a.
Yeah, I can't remember. He actually was on the same subcommittee as I was on the comprehensive plan. Can't remember his name.
Anything else, Gary?
Probably it.
Okay.
Peter, so we're gonna do shoreline zoning at the next meeting. What do we have, that we need to focus on? We got the wetlands issue still, right?
Yeah.
Gonna make a final decision about streams.
I think so, because that could be a contentious one.
Right, I agree. I know Rich has got, on the wetlands, he's got information from Inland Fish and Wildlife. And I think an offer on the table from them to double check some wetlands in Belgrade.
Oh, right, which was good because we had some wetlands.
That were previously mapped as of moderate value, wildlife value, that,
That maybe.
I mean, a high value that they now think might be just moderate value. And I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, and then there's the, I don't know if this, if you want to deal with this, I think we should, is the issue, the issue that Sean Grant's application brought to the fore and Rich suggested as a solution was that we changed the minimum lot size requirements in that,
Lakeshore District.
or whatever that district is for the village.
General,
Is it general development?
limited commercial.
Yeah, to be the same as the minimum lot size ordinance, so that we don't have that conflict. And also, since and the minimum lot size is the less stringent, you know, that seems applicable. You know, I mean, that seems appropriate to me anyway, because it is supposed to be a commercial center as well as a residential center.
Right.
Those are the things I can think of. I'm not sure if there's something else. I
Seems
haven't
like
reviewed
there's
my
another
notes for a
one.
while. Yeah, it seems like there is another one, but I can't remember what it is.
I can't either, but I know that when we at our last meeting, we made sure to list them.
No, you made some progress on shoreline zoning though at the meeting I missed, right?
Yep, we did, which was really good to be able to make some progress, and,
I think Rich told me that the stormwater you dealt with.
Yep.
Okay, so that's good.
I think so. Yep, I think we're okay.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna be having new maps made You think?
Yeah, quite likely, because we have the data.
Now, at the meeting that's coming up, you've got a budget in there of $7,000 that they wanna take out of there and put back into general fund. I read that in the book today, that their annual report just come out. Wouldn't it be nice if that would be left alone to use for those maps?
That was the intent of you putting it in, wasn't it?
Well, according to that, they wanna take that 7,000 from us plus some from another group to go into general fund.
As long as it,
I didn't see that.
Well, I'll have to look for that. I haven't.
Article, I'm halfway through the articles anyway.
I haven't.
Well,
So, yeah, what we need to do is make sure we have enough to do the printing. Always. That's always the
that's,
thing.
to me, that would be it's there and.
It would be the second year in a row we've taken a budget cut.
Yeah.
If that's what it really is, or unless it's more of an accounting thing where, you know, it's still for the same purpose, but being, gonna be shown in a different line item.
With the articles?
This,
Denny talked about it like, as I recall, more of an accounting thing. And not a reduction in our capabilities.
Right.
And I think what it does is, and I can't speak eloquently about what the overall plan was, because I didn't help design that plan, but I think the idea was to say, well, let's make general, what do you call it?
General fund.
General fund, make it as fluid and and purposeful as possible without having carryovers and carryovers and carryovers all the time with multiple.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's what.
We also want to make sure that next we have to address how we pay for you too. Which we start to run into a lot of overhead on it. And we get the expensive hours.
Yes, I know.
So.
It's costing us money.
Okay, where are we? No.
Okay. Oh, capital reserve. You know, the board of appeals, so. We'll have to talk to Denny. You can come to the next meeting and explain that one more time.
What does it say?
Why'd you read it, Roger?
Proceed with the voting on the following question. Shall the town of Belgrade vote to dissolve the planning board capital reserve of $7,475.40 and the Board of Appeals capital reserve of $4,013.67 with all remaining funds to lapse to general fund?
Sounds to me like they're taking your money.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw it.
But
Yeah.
you know, it may be, as you described, Peter, that, because this is all, I think, part and parcel of that new accounting system that Kerry came up with, where a lot of things went into this more general fund account.
Right.
That, and I don't remember exactly, but I think this came up, I once asked her a question about, like, for example, the share of your salary that's devoted to the work you do for this board, you know, who pays for that? You know, does the planning board have to put that in its budget or not? Or I think a question similar to that, and
Right,
and I think, I mean, it makes more sense in this regard. No, that you know, you're paid out of that general fund,
Right.
but rather than some
Right away,
number
I
of
think the
hours
question
assigned to
really
this
is,
board.
was in general fund, we need
But
money for.
In that case, you know, where you're talking mapping, that's unique to us.
Yeah,
It'd be worth exploring.
I can ask Dennis tomorrow, because he knows about the mapping and stuff, so I would
Right.
think,
Right.
I would think he would set aside some type of money for that. I'll ask him tomorrow. I'll send him an email.
I mean, because the other things that we have in our budget really are for really mundane type of stuff, you know, yeah, no, typical type of stuff. You know, but when it comes to
You
map
put a
revision,
certain amount in every year.
yeah, and typically we don't change it that much.
So it's, then say 7,000, that's what, 2 or 3 years accumulation?
Probably.
Not 1 year, okay.
Yeah, I do think. So, when it comes time to, every so often, to have a larger expense, like printing maps, you know, like going to, you know, school, that costs the town money, as long as we can accommodate that somehow and not shortchange ourselves.
Did we last year put in money for mapping in our budget? And so this is sort of that lapsed amount, and so they're putting it back into the general fund, and somewhere else there's a line item that replaces it?
I thought we had set aside some money for printing last year.
Because, you know, I mean, we obviously aren't on the schedule we all hoped or thought. I mean,
I think, I can't swear to it, I thought we had set aside some money for printing last year.
I don't recall. I don't know.
know.
I guess we won't know until we talk to Dennis. Until you talk to
I
Dennis.
don't know, I saw that, and I said, what the heck? Gotta bring it up.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, but I have faith that it is part of what we're talking about tonight, and not somehow going to reduce our capability of doing what we're trying to get done. It's a different way of having the money in an account, general fund, to account for these things. Okay? All right, anything else? Late night. Thank you, everybody. Let's wrap it up. 10:22. Thanks.
Supper time.